Blog Talk Radio. The views expressed on Talk Real Solutions, hosted by Tyrone Thompson at TalkRealSolutions.com, are the views of Tyrone Thompson and do not reflect the views of TalkRealSolutions.com, YouTube, or etc. The content here belongs to Talk Real Solutions and its many contributors. Views and opinions expressed by all contributors belong to them and not TalkRealSolutions.com or Tyrone Thompson, the host, or etc. All data and information provided on the site is for informational purposes only. Talk Real Solutions makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, correctness, suitability, or validity of any information on this site and will not be liable for any errors, omissions, or delays in this information or any losses, injuries, or damages arising from its display or use. All information is provided on an as-is basis.
That rainbow on the train tracks, that gold rope, that five-finger ring rap, running with my same pack. You can find the price where the lepers and the lames at. Life is like a dice game. One roll can land you in jail or cutting cake, blowing kisses in the rice rain. Nice whip, nice chain, a closet of skulls. The stench is like slave blood and private and tall. Yeah, they built my city on top of a grave. Niggas die, niggas get high and watch the parade. Back in the early 90s, where they at, where they at? Get the gat was a popular phrase. Valley animals and rugbies was a popular craze. This the vivid memoirs of an obnoxious slave. I paved ways like Nat and Harriet. I blast on Judas Iscariot and peel off in the chariot. Respect the architect, never test the Elohim. Good night, this is JLX live from New Orleans.
So real, I'm surreal, the pure deal. Dante Flacco, flow handsome, guapo. The sun, moon, and stars, grits in the gospel. School and knock harder and the teachings of apostles. Pistols, prayer me.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you all once again to another show of Talk Real Solutions. I'm your host, Matthew Solly, a.k.a. So Real, and it is always a pleasure to be with you guys to grow and build together. Before I begin, I just wanted to give a rundown. If you are new here listening, please host into TalkRealSolutions.com. That's TalkRealSolutions.com. That is our website. There you will find a 3-point plan for economic growth and empowerment. And that's basically half of what we're going to be talking about tonight as part of our one of two topics. There, a part of this 3-point plan, you will find point number 1, get together with like-minded people. There's instructions for that. It's always important to make sure that we're spending in amongst our own selves. Number 2 is to stop all unnecessary spending and save your money. That's also another instruction because we all definitely need some tips on that. And also, part number 3 is, as a unit, invest or save money in a verified and trusted institutions. So it basically makes a possible goal that could be to open your own black business. And below, you will find a link to African-American owned banks and credit unions. So that is our 3-point plan package. And once again, you can find that at TalkRealSolutions.com. That's TalkRealSolutions.com. So as a part of our opening, I just did want to say that this is definitely something that I could pretty much really get used to. Just to give a review from last week, I was asked to fill in for a Black Jesus minister, a.k.a. George Blanche, and that was a pretty wonderful experience. I also got some good tips from some notable people. Mama's boy, I don't know his real name, but he definitely gave me a rundown on how things kind of get down in, I guess, wild, wild west of Texas, because that's basically where this whole thing kind of started from anyway. So I definitely did want to give a shout-out to him. I don't know if he's going to be on the line tonight. Last week, I also had 17 callers. Maybe it was around 17 or 23 callers somewhat. I was told by a friend of mine that does radio shows in Arizona, Vocab Alone, he actually said to me, Matt, that's a pretty decent-sized number of individuals calling in. You must have did or said something. And so I started asking people about just reviews about kind of what they thought about the show. And I guess I had a lot of good people kind of call in because it seems that I was answering a lot of questions head on. And I don't know, perhaps they're not kind of used to that bit of a dialogue. And just kind of to give a little background about myself, yes, I am a Christian, but I'm more of a evangelical kind of person rather than a debater. But as I started to kind of just learn about history in general, and other things in general, I just began to kind of study everything, and I began to become a bit of a conversationalist, and from there it caused me to have a positive career in working as a school counselor / prevention teacher. So I basically work with youth. I work in about 5 schools a week plus 1 after-school program full-time. So I guess after so many years, 5 plus going on 6 years of learning how to listen and talk, and also that's kind of mixed in with my 7 years of capoeira, I think I've gotten a pretty rhythmic way of kind of talking with people. There's an art to conversation that I love, and when I'm talking to you all, I love to connect because, life has a story, history has a line, and we all play our part. And so, that's pretty much the kind of vibe that you'll get here. Come with your questions, come with your comments, come with everything. Yes, this is going to be my first official radio show, and I decided to take, along with that chapter, a crucial start. I remember last week that the host was basically telling me that they have been talking about a good bit of the things I was speaking about on Open Topic for quite some time. And so what I decided to do was I decided to kind of like niche around the YouTube website. And that reminds me, I'm sorry. I actually kind of forgot to give the rest of the pitch. And it kind of goes like this. Please, please, please donate with the link on our website. For those of you who have donated, we definitely, truly thank you for your most tangible support, which is your money. We do not take that lightly. And this also helps to maintain the website and to keep you entertained as well as informed. We also have our new YouTube channel. It is called Talk Real Solutions Animated. And if you find or know of any kind of funny moments, please inbox us or definitely at least email me at ssoreal@gmail.com, and we will create an animated clip for you to share with your friends. So for us, when you're laughing, you're learning, and it all goes toward growing in the number where we are kind of expanding for a greater cause, through the topics that we go through. So yes, now that I've finished my pitch, I wanted to get back to the topic or topics of tonight's episode. Really, it's actually going to be split into 2. Unfortunately, I have a lot to say about one and very little to say about the other. Despite, all my years of listening and researching, I kind of gravitated toward one and not the other, mainly because on Sunday was when I decided to make my topic, which means I only had 3 days to dedicate to one of the 2, and then hope for the other to be all right. And that is, the topics were economic empowerment, right? Basically economic solutions for African Americans, and also ending myths of the black church. Now, I know what you're probably wondering. So, Real, why did you take these 2 topics and put them together? Well, that's because I believe in what the host believes in. Real solutions. That's what we're trying to get to. There's an old phrase that I always end up kind of saying to a lot of my students and also some of my peers and things, and that is, if we don't talk, then our next generation will fight. And so if that's the case, if we can get past the fighting, then I feel like somewhere that we will finally get to a level ground of agreement. The more ground of agreement that we actually kind of get on, then we'll actually go from agreement to mobility. We'll start kind of moving together as a group. And so that's the reason why I ended up using the ending the myths of the black church, because if that can actually be re-examined, then perhaps there will be more collaboration and less fizzling out with the differences between us, and then after that we get to work. So I'm basically trying to fast forward the process of us trying to move forward as a nation. So yeah, I'm basically trying to do my part, but I have at least a lot of insight in terms of that one subject, which is ending myths of the black church. In terms of the economic empowerment, I do have some key things to say. It's just not as meaty and weighty as the other side, and that is to my shame, and I do apologize for that. But perhaps you as the callers could feel free at any time to come on and build and give some really key ideas, because that's all I really wanted to do, was kind of really give some key ideas for all of us to do that are, fairly easy and something that actually gets us moving, so that way we can start working together. Because I'm going to definitely give you just from personal experience. I've been in MLMs. I've been in all kinds of residual income programs. And one thing that I have noticed is that half of them were bad, but half of them were good. The issue is that there wasn't enough group power. That's one thing I've always noticed. Yes, I do remember that there were mentors. I did have some. However, the communication just got distant. And I started to notice that it doesn't matter what kind of business you have. If you don't have that group power, it'll eventually kind of fizzle away and fall apart. And so what had happened with me was I was always kind of just a little behind. And I noticed that if people are just a little behind in their bills or a little behind in this and that, it may have an effect on how successful they are in businesses that they start with other people or their own business. I have a T-shirt business, and for 2 years, I did pretty good. But by the end of those 2 years, I began to quickly slow down, and that was because I ended up in a small bit of debt. And so what I basically did in 2016 was I put my business on pause. I really did. And I'm dedicating this whole year to simply getting out of debt. And once I did that, I just kind of took a rest from everything. It actually opened up some new insight and new opportunities for me to kind of do some other things, And it also left a lot of time and room for me to plan for 2017. And 2017 will be the year to actually pick my business back up. And by that time, I will be debt-free. So when I'm speaking about economic empowerment, I'm only going as far as I've gone. I'm not trying to go any further than that. So that way, I don't want to appear to be disingenuous at all. I'd rather be so real. So another disclaimer too, the information and things I'm going to share economically, these are things I have to put into practice. So that's one thing I immediately noticed. And as I was getting ready and just trying to piece together some things that we could all really do together as a first start, I noticed within a few days, I'm like, I really have to start doing these things myself, including the 3-point program that's on the Talk Real Solutions website. I really encourage you guys to go and do that. I'm going to check it out. I'm definitely going to check it out this week. And next week, I'll definitely be able to give you some updates on how that went for me. So other than that, without further ado, I'm going to get into one of the two topics. And to tell you the truth, I don't know which one to start with first. I really tried to think of which one that I wanted to start with, and I couldn't make up my mind. I really couldn't. But I think that's what we'll do. You know what? Because I don't have that much to say about the economic solutions, I'm going to go ahead and start with the economic solutions first. Now, listen, this is not going to be anything exhaustive. It's not going to be anything weighty, heavy, meaty. It's not going to be anything like that. But they are going to be small step solutions that you and I could begin to do. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and open up with, just any of the callers that could really just share their experiences in the businesses that they have, businesses that they tried, and certain things that, we all might want to avoid. And also, before I begin, I did end up putting this on the Facebook post when I ended up promoting this show. If you're 10 years old, if you're 13, if you're 15, if you're 19, I am so godly glad that you're listening tonight. I want this to be, as part of my first show, I want this to be kind of an introduction, something very plain, clear, easy to understand. It's important that our younger generation is listening. And so when this is all over, of course, I'm going to definitely promote this show to, a lot of the younger audience. But hopefully we have some sitting right now, if you're on your phones or if you're actually on a computer. Maybe perhaps you can call some of your young children down. This is going to be some really good 101 kind of thing. So, the first thing I really wanted to say in terms of economics, I often kind of get my thoughts when I walk. And so when I'm actually going from school to school, bus to bus, things really just pour into my mind, besides just me going through meticulous research that I believe that would be a blessing. So the first thing I really did want to start with were the kids. Because think about it, if we could really start with putting good habits, just good simple habits into the young people, that would definitely be a head start for tomorrow. And one of the first ideas that I had was something that spilled in my head this morning. And I automatically heard something tell me, save $1, earn $1. Now, I know what you're thinking, like, what in the world? What do you mean save $1, earn $1? Save $1, earn $1. Think about this. How many of you guys have kids? So one of you guys has, 2 kids. And you decide to say to them both, all right, I'm going to give you $1. If you have the same amount of money, or at least maybe more, I'll go ahead and give you an extra $1 next week. And so it teaches the kids to actually save $1. And you give them a second $1 next week. Then after that, you make the same promise. If you have $1, I'll go ahead and give you another one again. And finally, the kids, in the next week, they had $3. Now they spend $2, but they still have that $1. And next week, you also give them an extra $1. At first, it seems like at age 7, it seems like something that's insignificant. But seeing that I do work with children and I do child development and personal growth and development, habits are almost like rituals. It's something that you do without thinking, and you immediately have an experience of it without trying to work up some type of experience or emotion. And so that's what's so powerful about simple things like that. And so if you want to turn it into a game, if you want to go ahead and print out a sheet of paper or something and plaster a game on the wall or whatever it is, and you want to turn save $1, earn $1 into something, if you want to share it with your Sunday school kids, if you want to go ahead and do it with them, if you want to do it with any of your classroom kids or even your kids at home, save $1, earn $1 is something that I believe that would definitely work out, And so that was just basically one thing. And so a second thing that I was thinking about in terms of the adults, what is the first step that we could actually do in terms of just trying to get some type of group power? Of course, we all got to start with ourselves. And I'm going to pull up something here. And there were a few tips that really ended up striking me. And they said that, I believe this comes from something called houseofknowledge.org.uk. And this is tips or top tips for black financial empowerment. And there's this quote from John Henry Clark, and it says, "The most dangerous of all dependencies is to depend on your own powerful possession to free you and to share power with you, because powerful people never train powerless people to take their power away from them." I just wanted that to sink in real quick before I give these pieces of advices. And so, the first tip that really struck out to me, and these are not in order. These are things that I was just kind of like, oh, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. One of the first ones was go shopping with a shopping list. All right. Now we live in the age of Walmart, Target. I mean, just think about, if some of your kids are listening right now, I just want to ask y'all, what are some of y'all's favorite stores? Teenagers, what are some of your favorite stores? Okay, so let me ask you something. You shop spontaneously from a scale of 1 to 10. If you're rating it like a 6 or a 7, then you probably do want to rate a list, because they say that 70% of purchases are spontaneous. I'm going to say that one more time. 70% of purchases are spontaneous, but that percent actually goes down when you actually go with a list. Now, look, I've been the one that, when I'm coming from work or whatever, and I want to go to Whole Foods, or I want to go to Trader Joe's or Giant Eagle, or even Target, I will walk in and say, all right, I need my trinity of food, which is butter, milk, eggs. That's what I need. I'm just going to get that. But then I get bread. Oh, wait, can't have bread without cinnamon, right? I like French toast, so I get cinnamon. And all of a sudden I start getting all this other stuff. And by the end, that'll be about $44.17. I'm like, darn, man, I only meant to spend $20. And so going shopping with a list is one way to really actually kind of do some good with yourself when you get your paycheck every 2 weeks. Go with a shopping list. A second thing that we can really do is create a household budget. Yeah, I mean, now this is something that reminds me of my sister. My sister, she's very administrative, and she actually worked out a whole Excel sheet for me and my mom and everybody else in the family. She's powerful at it. I hope that she actually calls in tonight and actually gives some advice. Now that I think about it, I probably should have just, called her way earlier so that way she could help me out. Because I'm more the artist, historian, theologian, counselor of the family. But creating a household budget actually helps you to gauge your spending habits on all of your spending of your household. The things that we spend commonly, which is like groceries and things, the things that we wish to spend on, right? Maybe a new bookshelf. Maybe we do want a new couch. Maybe we want some new entertainment. Creating a household budget helps you out. You actually make a budget for how much you are actually spending a month all the time. There's something that happens when you put it on a sheet of paper and hang it up on your refrigerator. Because then now you see where most of your money's going. Now all of a sudden you can kind of create not exactly a wish list, because we're trying to do some economics. So yeah, I mean, but even if you do want to end up doing some type of wish list for yourself, you have to understand that things happen in organization, not spontaneousness. And I think that's what we as a society need to get away from. We are very spontaneous, and meanwhile, look at nature around us. It works according to order. The sun doesn't come up when it wants, right? The moon doesn't pull in the tides of the sea or the waves and things like that whenever it wants. Summer or winter doesn't come whenever it wants. Unless you live in Pittsburgh, that's a little different. So, right? So that's another thing that can really help. Which is making or creating a household budget, right? Now, There are other tips that are here that I can actually read, but I don't have much to say about them because once again, I should have definitely did just as much research as I did with the second topic, but that is something that I'm definitely going to work on a lot more as I'm trying to create shows in the next 3 days, right? But some of these tips say things like buy black as far and as much as possible. Check your shopping list and see how much expenditure you can transfer to black-owned businesses, right? And also they say find out more about the concept of residual income. That one is the one I was talking about in terms of my own experience. I can definitely say that it's something that when you get into it, you want to make sure that you're in as little debt or no debt. And that's all I'll say about that. Another one says, deposit money in black-owned banks so they can fund black businesses and social causes. Once again, I'm going to promote the Talk Real Solutions Radio. We do have a 3-step plan. You can go ahead and purchase that. And like I said, that's something that I'm going to do when I get paid on the 15th. I'm definitely going to try and purchase that plan because I need some insight. We need to stop being so individualistic and just going to the internet and trying to do everything ourselves. No, if someone has a plan, we need to move as a group. And if you're listening tonight, you can actually go on to Talk Real Solutions and actually check out the 3-point plan. Just go there, go in the Google search bar and type in 3-point plan. It'll come right up. Another thing is start looking at manufacturing products as opposed to always starting business services. Now, I do remember one time I was listening to Dr. Claude Anderson, and he began to say that I believe it was in Chicago or Michigan. It was some type of places like that where they actually had black fishermen, and they owned manufacturing businesses. And after you kind of think about it, it does make sense. Because when I did my T-shirt business, I became a bit of a manufacturer. Of course, I would design things for people. And don't worry, I will share my art with you guys if you want to know some of my work and you want to do business with me. You can give me I'll give you my email at ssoreal@gmail.com. One thing I remember was that whether it was people at my church or people from the conscious community that's around in Pittsburgh and they know who they are, they will always come to me and say, "Hey, brother, I ran out of shirts. I need more shirts. Can you definitely press me out 30 more shirts in 5 days?" And so my business became a bit like manufacturing, and I could see how powerful that was. Because by the end of the day, people do come for you for goods rather than services. Even though, of course, no one's going to be eating T-shirts, but you pretty much get my point. If you're listening to this, you might want to step in that direction in 2017. You might want to try, the services of a little bit of a break. Put it on a break. Try to get into manufacturing products, right? And the most basic way that you end up doing that is people who go into a bit of like a food business. I remember one time there was a guy named Jason's Bean Pies. He has the best bean pies in all of his crank out bean pies like you wouldn't believe. I'm serious. And there was another individual named J.E. Gamble, and hopefully he can be listening to this as well. He actually had sweet potato pies that he would sell to the churches. And I remember I was tracking how good he was doing back in 2010, 2009, and I would look on his Facebook, and so many times he would say, "Oh, I'm sold out again." Manufacturing. Try it out. I hope these are really effective solutions. Like I said, I don't like to waste anyone's time. I really just like to give you some good, simple, solid, basic starting points. And I think the last one was, here it is. Start your own business and provide jobs for our people. Stop waiting for someone to hire you. Now, that's, of course, if you're making it. All right? If you're making it big, that's the trickle-down point. That's the point we all do want to get to. It's fulfilling when you actually end up giving back that way. So I think I'm doing really good with time. It is only 9:29. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and open up to some callers. Try to be brief, please. As usual, I seem to always attract a lot of callers, and we're going to see how many I have. And, okay, good. So we got a good, decent amount of callers. And so I'm going to open up the lines right now for topic number 1, which is linking economic solutions. So we're going to go to, let's see, we have 919-949. 919, you are on the air.
Z Malachi in the house.
Hey, how's it going, Z Malachi? Where you from, man?
North Carolina.
Oh, all right, excellent. That's what's up, man. Yeah,
yes.
Definitely. I just wanted to definitely get some insight because I'm still a little bit green to this. Is there any kind of things that you've had experiences in with, you know, the world of business, or any kind of issues that blacks kind of have in keeping up good economic practices?
Well, yeah, I have. Definitely dealing with a lot of the things that you mentioned, you know, but most of that experience is numb to me in the presence of my awareness of the ultimate goal, you know, and so I have my eye set on the ultimate circumstance and situation for us is to not even be using money and to be handling economics in an entirely different way. So with that being said, you know, I would only be able to go back and talk about the things that you talked about, you know, saving money and teaching the children good habits, you know, and even looking into some residual income and stuff. But behind those doors, I'm cringing because I feel like no one's going to be ready for that next conversation, you know, just regarding what we might ultimately want, you know, and that has to do with, well, why do we even have the mindset for residual income? What are we really doing when we influence our children to save money?
Wow.
You know, and what are we actually saving for? You see,
that, you know, that's a really good point. I think that's one of the main reasons why, you know, companies do kind of buckle when it tries to pass it to the next generation, because, you know, mom and pop can be working really hard and they may not do a good job in passing down that business. And when it's time for it to keep up and they want to pass it down to that child, and the child has its own dreams, sometimes if we don't teach our kids, you know, some good, you know, selflessness instead of selfishness, then they're going to cut their own help. Yeah, they have goals, but, you know, the first thing that they got to do before they, you know, go into their own goals, they have to serve the goals of another. And, you know, those businesses or that business that the mom and pop have can expedite financially their kind of financial ventures instead of just trying to start from the bottom by themselves. And so I do think that, yeah, that is important in terms of a goal. Like, our goal has to have our children in mind. It just can't be, I want to have the best business ever. And then your kids want nothing to do with everything that you've done. You know, that's sad. It's like a beautiful tree that grows no seeds, you know, and your best life is going to be now, and that's it. And so, yeah, you're definitely right. You know, we do, amidst of our starting small and everything that we're talking about tonight, we do get to ask the question, like, okay, so what is the ultimate goal for tomorrow? You know, and I'm definitely glad that you know, you brought that up. You know, is there anything else that any last kind of things you wanted to add? Anything else?
Just pretty much that, man. It's easy for us to overlook it because it's not really that much of a reality for us right now. Until our children start coming to us and saying that they don't want to use money anymore and they want to see a better world, we're not going to look forward to doing anything beyond what could be considered as just survival right now, no matter how wealthy we are.
Right. Well, thank you so much, my man. Calling all the way from North Carolina 919. I definitely appreciate you jumping on the call, and I definitely hope to hear from you guys for more radio shows come, man. Thank you for your wisdom.
Peace.
All right. And so I do see a lot of other people online, but however, they're not jumping on, and I think that was my mistake. There's one more thing you have to do if you want to kind of call in order for me to click you in. You got to hit the number 1. So it's good that you did call 602-753-1949. That's good, but you have to click the number 1 so that way the blue icon can come on my screen and I can, click you in. So for right now, I do see about a few other callers, and so far no one has clicked the call-in button yet, and I'm going to give, probably a few more moments for anyone who does want to call in. But if not, then I will transition to my next subject. So once again, I'm just going to go ahead and give just a few more moments for anyone that does want to call in and really give some good, insightful economic information that we could all kind of start practicing together, And also, please, leave your reviews in the chat. We do have an open chat. You can do that as well, or you could actually just leave your reviews with ssoreal@gmail.com. Once again, that's ssoreal@gmail.com. And I do see a few other callers. And I do actually see a familiar number. I'm not going to say who that is yet, but I'm glad that she's on the line. So, all right, let's go to another caller. We have (843-831). 843-831.
What's up, Tyrone, man? How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, Tyrone?
Calling from South Carolina, hurricane area down here.
Oh gosh, yeah, yeah.
Hey, what's going on, man? Look, I heard you say that people have to purchase the 3-point plan. It's free. It's free to download, and what it is, it's just that general idea to give people a mindset about their economics and what direction they can go in thinking as far as their personal finances and what they could do to actually, start building better blackness as far as economics is concerned. You see what I'm saying? So it's no cost to it, and if you own the website, just download it, share it, take it to your office, hang it out, print it out, carry it in your wallet. It's just an idea so people can actually, get a spark of interest on, economics, because we don't talk about it a lot, and I'm glad you put that subject on the table tonight,
Right. I mean, economics is everything. I mean, it's vitally important. So I'm glad he said the word free. You hear that, y'all? So forget the word purchase. Erase it from out of your head. Capital F, capital R, capital E. It is free. Go to talkrealsolutions.com. Please go ahead and download it and, do what the man said. As you're working in your cubicle or wherever, driving in your car, put it there. And, also it's something that I'm going to definitely do as well because I'm definitely curious. I mean, now I ain't going to purchase it. I ain't going to wait till the 15th, y'all. That's great. So, now that I got you on the line, was there any kind of extra insight that, you perhaps wanted to share about the experience of, economics, perhaps things that, have helped you or maybe even some things to pretty much avoid?
Well, I can. I owned a daycare before, and doing that whole process, that was years ago, over 10 years ago to be exact, I believe. Doing that whole process, there's a couple of things that we need to do as a people. A lot of us know in our community we have bad credit. We got to try to avoid that whole situation of actually spending more than you have. That way, whenever you are in the situation and it's time for you to actually purchase something, you will be worth something. You yourself as an individual will be worth some collateral, We go out and get these credit cards when we're young, and if you're in the military, they throw in credit at you left and right, and a lot of people, fall for it. Even in college students, they throw in money at you left and right, and a lot of you fall for it, and you shouldn't. I know we desire things and we want to be like the Joneses, but that's not a good practice economically, because you got that if you plan on having any type of stability in economics with your future, you got to think right now, today, how what I do is going to affect tomorrow or years to come. Because whenever you're getting these large sums of money, some people get $1,000, $500, $800. Down the road, you got to pay for that, and you got to continue to pay for that until it's paid off. Or not, if not, then you will have bad credit, and you do not want to have bad credit. So that's one thing is don't jump on all these let me get my Jordans now, or let me get this stereo now, or let me get this TV now, or even a fancy car. You don't have to have the most expensive car out there. Just something that is reliable and affordable, and you can see the payoff date. I mean, you actually got to plan this out. People go and purchase stuff, and they don't even worry about the future. Whenever I buy stuff or used to buy stuff, I used to sit down and said, okay, I'm going to have this paid off by this day, either a year, 2 or 3 years, or whatever the case may be. I always did that whenever I buy stuff. That's why I really don't have a whole lot of debt. I do got some because, I'm a homeowner and I own an automobile. But you don't want to keep this furniture bills and all this kind of stuff. And I know a lot of people can't afford it, but that's why it's a good practice to actually save the money first and then go out and buy it. And then that way you won't have it. If you really need it, you'll save the money for it. And I know a lot of people don't do that because this country is catered around sending you the city cards and all this kind of stuff and giving you these credit cards and you just take it. You just take it, when we shouldn't. So that's one thing. And the 3-point plan is definitely, like you hit on, a good idea. If you want to grow your finances, you're going to have to get in the right mindset. And if you want to grow your finances in a group, you're going to have to get with a group of people that's thinking just like you. And that's why I get together with like-minded people. So if you found somebody that's broke, then you ain't gonna be talking about gaining no money. But if you're around somebody that is doing investing and all this kind of stuff, then that's what you're gonna be on. So you need to get with people with like-minded, and then you need to stop, like I said, all the unnecessary spending. Don't go build no high credit debt or nothing like that. You just got to start saving your money. If you save your money, like I said, you'll be able to do whatever you need to do with that money if it needs to be done. And if you get to the point to where you want to invest and save and build a business, then you'll have that resource, and you can actually save your money in a verified and trusted institution. And that's important, too, because there's a lot of institutions out here that give you these charges, these ATM fees and these bank fees and all this. You got to be aware of all those little charges because they do add up at the end of the year, and you wind up paying a lot of money that you could have been saving. And that's just a general idea. Just follow that 3-point plan, and you can generally get an idea on how to start saving money. I don't know, man. I can ramble on all night about this stuff if you want to. I'll stop. I'll stop, or I can keep going. It's up to you.
No. I mean, that's definitely insightful. I think one of the things that stuck out to me on what you said was the mindset.
Yeah.
And the first thing that really did come to mind is one thing that would really help us is that we have to shift from this mind of get it now to everything happens in time. Nature does not work on get it now. It doesn't. You ask any farmer, which are probably the best businessmen, they'll tell you, you do a lot of work and you got to wait. And even when you get your harvest, you don't just eat it up and celebrate it off. No, you use part of it to prepare to do the thing again. But I think that we've been so, lacking that we use that harvest time of, I made it. And then after that, we make it all empty again. And so that was really one thing out of everything you said that stuck out to me as first and foremost. and then all these other things will be added into that. So, I really appreciate the insight. I'm definitely gonna listen to good bits and pieces of this again, when this is fully broadcasted. So, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to some other callers, man. I really want to thank you for always kind of calling in and checking up on everything. So,
no problem, man. You're doing a great job, man. All right,
thank you, man. I try. All right, peace. Okay, so we have only 2 callers left, and after these 2 callers, we're going to shift into our second subject. All right, so we got these 2 callers left. The caller number 1, we got, let's see, we have 412. I already know who you is. Hello, Mama. Hello?
Hey, Matt.
Hey, how's it going, Mom? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Think it's very good, very informative. What? Huh?
Exactly. I really appreciate it. I know maybe perhaps, with I remember you had a sewing business. When I was coming up, and you still got it now, and I know that was a business that you had some experiences in economically. I mean, is there anything that you wanted to add some insight to for us?
Well, one thing for sure, you have to have a plan. To have a plan with money, when your money is what's going out and what's coming in. You have to write these things down. You have to write down your plan and make sure that you are not spending more than you're making. And it takes time. It all takes time. You can't do everything overnight. You can't do it overnight.
You know what? It even takes sacrifice. I remember there were times where, we had some Christmases. And I remember me and my sister came downstairs, and there were a few Christmases where we didn't have anything. I remember that. And it takes sacrifice. But nevertheless, the next year we went to Ocean City, Maryland. And I think that sacrifice is something that really does need to kind of take place for other things to happen. Or, I mean, even if sacrifice means to get out of debt in order for other things to happen. And so, yeah, you're right. You can't just go without a plan. And even when you plan things,
taking sacrifice to get out of debt. I was in debt for years. But I had to bite the bullet and really just realize that I had to pay my bills. And it took me about 3 or 4 years. But staying on top of things and just really being consistent with paying my bills and making that sacrifice, I was able to almost get out of debt. I have one more bill.
Right, and I remember that. I think you had maybe 2 credit cards, and I remember you would, take some years, and sometimes people don't want to do that jail time. We really don't, especially if our minds are still fixated on get it now. It's going to be a while trying to get out of debt with a mindset of get it now. You might speed yourself up and sacrifice more when you're able to go from that mindset to things happen in time. But yeah, awesome. Congrats.
That's the society we live in. They want you to get it now. We live in a microwave world. They want it quick. They want it now. They make everything so easy, but they just don't tell you the results or what's going to happen down the line. Get it now, We'll loan you this money. You need money now? We'll loan you money till your paycheck comes in, and you can get rent to own, and no one talks about trying to save and trying to do things, the strategy or what it takes. They don't talk about that. It's just a microwave world.
Right. So, I definitely appreciate the insight, Mama. And above all, thank you for gracing us with your voice on the show. And also, thank you for coming back safely from Jamaica.
Yes,
I will be with you guys next year. I definitely enjoyed all the Bob Marley stuff. You know, that was wonderful. So, all right, I will.
All right, I'm gonna keep listening.
All right, Mom. Yep.
All right.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
And last but not least, we have our last caller for right now. And our last caller is (111). We're on the air. 111. Black Jesus Minister, what's going on? I am doing excellent.
Yes, indeed. You are definitely doing that, dear brother. I just wanted to say to you that I like your vibe, dear brother, and you're bringing a new flavor to TRS, and I'm looking forward to the trajectory of your show. I know it's going nowhere but up, and so I just want to just say to you, brother, thank you for coming on board and being a part of this operation and this family and this nation, TRS Nation. And again, I want to ultimately thank Brother Tyrone Thompson for making all of this possible and for him approving of you and allowing you to be a part of this educational instrument, because I do believe that TRS is educating people. We're not only, talking solutions, but we are really opening up avenues for people to bring in their ideas and to bring their solutions. And even if a solution is not forthcoming at the moment, at least it gets our mind starting to churn and to think in a way that we probably didn't think before, because we heard somebody say something or we heard a point of view that we never even thought about. So, dear brother, thank you very much and for being here. And also, I would like to extend a thank you to your mom for allowing her to come on and speak tonight and to allow us to share your time with us. So when you said mama, and then I thought about your name, I would like you to consider asking her if she don't mind if she ends up being a regular caller of us calling her Mama So Real.
Oh wow!
I thought about that.
Ain't nothing wrong with Mama's wisdom. That's fine. We can have a Mama's wisdom deal over there. And that's cool.
Right. Because Mama's so real. Because when she came in there, she came in with that mother's wit, and she was matter of factly. You know what I'm saying? And we need that.
On point.
Yeah. So we need that. So shout out to your moms. Mama So Real. I hope that'll stick. And but brother, again, thank you, dear brother. All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike Jesus.
You know what? I had some things I did want to say real quick. Do we have time?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sure. It's only 9:53.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, let me say this. Several times that I was on TRS, either a caller or either I was doing a show. I mentioned maybe once, twice, maybe probably three separate times that I kind of recall in my mind that that education is also a way and an avenue to improving our economics. Okay, especially after the crash of 2008. A lot of people, tons of people all over the nation lost jobs, and many people, young, middle-aged, older people, had to find ways to retool their lives and to take their careers in a different direction. And a lot of people went back to school to make that happen. So, and I also wanted to say that that point that you made earlier about manufacturing. It could be anything.
Oh yeah.
When you brought that up, I said, man, that is absolutely correct. We tend to think more along the service side.
Yep.
But we really do need to start thinking about the manufacturing side, because because that's where the meat of the economics is manufacturing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so so when you brought that up, that, so like I'm saying, because you're having this conversation, it made me think about things that I didn't think about as I'm saying right now. And so we are a very creative people, and I'm sure that if we take time to think about something that's unique about us, individually, we can find something to manufacture that would reflect who we are, as a people and as individuals, and I mean, even if it's just food, and the world knows that black people know how to cook, but we're not cornering the market in restaurants. You got the Chinese restaurants all over the place. You got the Italian restaurants all over the place. You see them all on TV and everything, like they're the greatest cooks on the planet. Who was doing all that cooking during slavery time? Who was really doing the cooking? You understand what I'm saying?
Come on now.
And then, and then all of a sudden, these people come along and they're better than us, and we had to do it for free. I kind of question that, But but I do love cuisines from all over the world. I'm not, trying to. I'm being kind of funny, right now. But I love all people. I love all kinds of cuisines. But I'm saying us as a people, we really have fallen short, and in marketing ourselves and our businesses, our business opportunities. But I'm gonna say this, Brother So Real. You're a Christian and I'm a Christian, and
yes,
and
sir.
I have interacted with believers and non-believers, especially many non-believers here on TRS. And I've said before, but I'm going to start saying it more, as I stated to Brother Jay from New York City, because he's always reminding me and telling me the same thing. Well, what you gonna do about these churches? What you gonna do about these preachers? What you gonna tell them? You always talking to us, but who's gonna talk to them? And the brother is right. He is right. There are things that we as Christians and the church is not doing, and I'm hearing exactly what TRS and the conscious community are saying. I remember reading a magazine article saying that the church is a sleeping giant, and it is. And the church
you're getting along what I was about. Yep.
Yeah, and the church has gotten away from what it used to do for black people, and where the church was not only a place for education, a place to praise and worship God and to understand our Heavenly Father and the ways of salvation, but it was a social dynamic place and an economic hub for black people. When we didn't have banks, the church was our bank. Okay? And now we got mega churches, we got churches all over the place. What are we doing with this money? These churches and these pastors, we need to utilize this voice to call Christians and call pastors, especially those who have denominations who have church memberships that are sufficient to have an economic impact in their communities, especially these mega churches. We need to start calling these people out on these things, brother. And not just allow the non-believers to do this talking. If we're a part of that group and we see that this is an issue, we need to remind our pastors, we need to remind our religious leaders that we must encompass the fullness of the church and the fullness of the community, that we're taking time out to invest back into our members and into our communities, because there are churches with people who have all kinds of business ideas, all kinds of business opportunities that they could pursue and dreams that they have, but we don't have the finances. And I'm hearing a lot of shows on TV and radio about the disadvantages in the black community because of economic and financial opportunities. But hey, our churches can fill that gap, and our pastors can fill that gap. And this is what so many of our people are upset about, and are upset with Christianity about. That it seems like, okay, well, all the pastors doing, all the churches doing, they're just taking the money from the people. But the scripture says, to whom much is given, much is required.
Much is required. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the Bible teaches verbatim about the parable of the talents. Okay, the parable where I think it was like 3 servants, and one of the servants invested his money. One of them hid his money, and I can't remember what the third one did. Maybe you can help me out, but I'm just talking off the top of my head. But the
second one, it was the first one ended up doing really great. He got back like tenfold. The second one he did all right. He got about twofold. Then in the third one he did the exact opposite.
The one that he didn't do nothing with the money. He just sat on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was the one who invested the money and took a chance. Okay. That's the one when the when the master came back and said, well done, thou good and faithful servant, based on him multiplying and increasing the initial money that was given to him. But see, this is what the church is missing. See, the master was Jesus. The master was God. The master is the church. You see what I'm saying? It's not just a story to say, okay, well, people take a chance and we're just talking to the people. That parable of the talents is also talking to the pastors and to the churches that we're supposed to be investing in our memberships and in our communities. So we want to sit up here and whine about what white folks ain't doing for us and white folks ain't hiring us if we invest in our people, in our communities, and in our churches to build small businesses, and then that can lead into corporations down the road. Okay, brother, we can sew this thing up. We can sew it up. And and to TRS Nation and the family, don't think I haven't been listening to you guys, and don't think that I don't take to heart what you all say. There were a few times that I said I'm going to start addressing that, but I've been kind of slow about it. But y'all just give me some time. I'm putting my scheme and my plans together, and it's not going to be a scheme where we're just going to be sitting up here coming on here on Black Jesus Ministry is going to show up on Friday and just talk. Okay, we got to have a plan. Like your mom said, you got to sit down and write it out. Okay, if you're gonna have a plan, you gotta write it down, and that's what Brother Black Jesus is doing, because I'm all about action, and having a plan, and verbally bringing light and truth to people as God gives it to me, and but ultimately we got to be about action, because protesting and talking can only go so far,
That's right.
Faith without works is dead. And to the church leaders, that the parable of the talents, the master 3 servants, I think he gave them all equal amount of money, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I think no. I think he. Well, no. I think he gave one 10. He gave the other one 5, and he gave the other one 3 or something like that.
Okay. But anyway, my whole point is, what I'm saying is, the master gave his servants money build upon that money, for them to do something with it. Okay, to create economics with it. Okay, and what the church has missed, and see, I'm realizing this right now for the first time in my life. The servants are the people, but the master who gave money to the servants, that is the church, and that is the pastors. And so, pastors and churches, if you are not investing in your people and investing in the community and helping your people to create businesses instead of trying to get you a big fine house, big fine car, and look rich off of the people's money, that is, the scripture says that you're not supposed to preach the word of God for filthy lucre. Okay? All right? And so the thing is that the master is the church, the master is the pastors and the leaders of the church. And so one of the main reasons, not the only, but one of the main reasons why there's such depression, economic depression in the black communities, black churches, black pastors, black preachers, black leaders, is that you are not being the masters that God gave us as example in the parable of the talents. To whom much is given, much is required, meaning not you, but how you're going to when it says much is required, it don't mean throwing money to the people, just throwing money away. Okay? It's about helping people. It doesn't have to just be monetarily, but we are talking about economics right now. The only way that you're going to really we're going to have a real impact financially and economically is that the churches must begin to invest in the communities and in their people. They can start with their members, find out what kind of ideas they have, or all the church members come together and create a small business in the community with the church money as a whole. You can go both ways and help people's dreams come true. Because if you give your people loans to start businesses, they can pay that off. Why should they go to the mainstream banks and they're not going to be given anything, especially when they want to invest in the black community? The bank gonna say no. The only time something gets built in the black community is when the banks give it to some white person to build something in the black community. Okay? Or other races of people, such as Asians or other people or other nationalities. They're not so much depending on banks. They're depending on their people and other businessmen among their races and their coalition that they have, okay, and pooling their money together and creating businesses, not in the white man's neighborhood, but in the black folks' neighborhood, okay? And it is shameful. It is absolutely shameful for us to have mega churches almost on every block, and there's not one decent black-owned business in the black community. And pastors and preachers and religious leaders who have means, and the church definitely has means, you are sinning and are not fulfilling the mission of the parable of the talents by not investing in your people in the community. And it's got to stop, and we got to start now. We got to repent. If you got a church, and if you got a church in the black community and it's been there for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and you haven't invested in nobody to create a business, at least a member in your church to create a business, or as a church to create a business, we got to repent for that, man. And the young people have been growing up looking at the church leaders, and all they see is church. Now, and church is wonderful. It's awesome. But what is the church doing in the black? If you got a multi-million-dollar church in a black community, and the black community is impoverished, and I've seen that, and we've all seen that, that is a sin before God, brother. God is going to say, now look, I gave you all of this, you take collections every Sunday. What did you do for the community? To whom much is given, much is required. Reinvesting into the community, into people. Man, I didn't mean to go off like that, you know. And I'm look,
hey, that's fine, you know.
Look, I really wanted to speak about, and I'm going to shut up. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to let you go to some more callers, and maybe you can come back to me. What I got off of was that I wished I had sounded the alarm much greater than I did previously about these private commercial colleges, such as ITT, such as Everest, such as Phoenix. I always felt from day one that these schools were some rip-off con artist schools, okay? And you all may be aware that in the news I think ITT or one of these big profit colleges, they're closing their doors. They're closing their schools because the government has found them frauding people, promising them jobs and promising them certain careers, and they've just been basically just stealing from the government and from the people. And railroading these students with false promises. It's just a straight up ripoff, okay? And so this has been in the media and in the news here recently. So I think that was ITT, and a lot of these schools are closing. You got people who have school loans, college loans, that's just like if they went to a legitimate college, okay, where these schools are closing, they can't even finish their education, and now they're trying to figure out what they're going to do and where they're going to go, and if they'll be able to finish this education. It's probably best that they didn't finish at these schools that are closing down, because they're not the federal government. The federal government is no longer going to give them any more federal funds.
Yeah,
go ahead.
And that's getting into slightly another topic that we could possibly revisit in the future.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the other side of finance. You know, when we'll talk about finance and education. You know, the dark side, the consequences of not handling finances the right way. You know, right now we're on pretty much the optimistic side, the linking economic solutions. But yeah, you know, that is something that we could table for another time, because sometimes people need to be shown, like, okay, look, if you keep on going this direction, these are some possible consequences for you. You know, how's that working for you? You know, so, but anyway, thank you, Black Jesus Minister.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So, brothers and sisters, if you guys are, okay, brother. No problem, brother. Yeah. No problem.
All right, well, I will, we'll definitely put you back on the line, you know, if things get a little quiet, because I do see a lot of callers. However, I don't see a lot of call-ins, and if you're jumping in and you're hearing my voice right now, make sure that you hit 1. It's good that you did call 602-753-1949. That's good. But if you want to call in and say something, you have to press the number 1. Then the blue icon will show on my screen, and that way I will dial you in. But right now, we just want to thank you, Black Jesus Minister, for coming on in. But I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next segment of the program.
Can I ask, before you go there, can I have 60 seconds?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Everybody, those of you all who are going to Everest, ITT, Phoenix, any of these private schools that are actually scams, okay, you all need to take that financial aid money and go to a well-established college and university, such as a community college in your city, in your town, in your state, a junior college, or a full-fledged state college. Do not go to these private colleges and schools because they are scams, and you all can tune in and watch PBS, your public broadcasting station. You can go online and watch a documentary that exposed the frauds and the criminality of these for-profit schools. And the name of that frontline investigation documentary is called Subprime Education. SUBPRIME, Subprime Education. Frontline did an investigation that exposed these schools for what they really are, frauds. Leave now and find yourselves a community college, junior college, or go to a regular college. Do not waste your time in these criminal schools. Or a trade school. Thank you, brother. And trade schools are found at community colleges, too.
All right.
Thank you, brother.
I hope you guys definitely heard that. Thank you, Black Jesus Minister. Remember, there are alternatives out there. Definitely you want to take a rewind for this program tonight. I really feel like that there were some good, solid nuggets that we can have in terms of a first step wherever you're at. I tried to make sure that this is something that 10-year-olds can understand, that 13-year-olds can understand, 16, 19. So with that being said, we're going to segue into the second part of this whole program. We're going to be talking about ending myths of the Black church. All right, this is the second side of the economic solution. And yes, I admit, I'm a Christian. And so I do come with a bit of a bias, and I do understand there is a large Black conscious atheist community that is listening to my voice right now. However, for the sake of the babies, for the sake of the younger generation, the young, fiery 17-year-olds that are still trying to find themselves and figure out, what is the full range of the picture that I've been in, so that way I can know where I'm going. What does the path really look like? When we talk about ending Black church myths, I'm going to do this in three parts. The first part, I decided to actually take a whole bunch of clips and put them in the audio, and I'm talking like whole documentaries, speeches, all kinds of material that I drew from, and actually summed it down to 12 minutes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a 12-minute clip of all these multiply faceted stuff about one topic, the Black church. What did it look like from the beginning? How were the people acting in the beginning? What were their work ethics like? What were these people like? Did Christianity really have this kind of, in context of slavery and in the Americas, did it have this kind of whitening down or docility, this docileness effect on African Americans? Did it really work? Well, after all that has been done with them and the blacks embracing Christianity, what did they turn out like? What were they really like? And so, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and play this 12-minute audio clip. Then after that, I'm going to go through and I'm going to read some good snippets from even my personal notes that I've actually did on Facebook. On Facebook, they have these thing called notes, and what you could do is you could just, it's basically like an article or a blog. And so, after the clip, I'm going to be reading from, something that I did called On Being Black and Christian, and I'm going to end all these myths. Is Christianity a white man's religion? Was Christianity forced on blacks? Did Christianity create subservient African Americans? Did the Black church hinder the blacks community from progress? Okay, now there's a lot of other questions that I could ask, but the fact is I'm going to try to give you this story from another dimension. I know that perhaps there's a bit of an imbalance as to how to look at everything that really happened from history, we don't want to look at it as one-dimensional. History had a lot of sides. And I know that you've been hearing one side, and now so I'm going to come from the other side so that way you can get a clear picture of what our African ancestors and slaves were really like. And so without further ado, I'm going to play this clip. Then I'm going to go ahead and go through a lot of my material to read. And then I'm going to play a final clip, which is also 10 minutes. And these clips are actually from the conscious community. What you're going to notice is that the older generations of the conscious community always had a kind of evangelistic connecting appeal to Christianity. And you're going to notice that the younger, later generations that come along, you're going to notice that they've been very antagonistic against Christianity. They didn't try to use it for the better. They just pretty much just said it has to go. That's what you're going to notice. And you as a young person, you're going to have to ask why this transition. Why is it the older conscious community is talking like this and the younger ones from decades later is now saying it's all got to go? Why? Let me give you my conclusion before I give you all my data. My conclusion is this. Because the black church that the conscious community is attacking and that they have beef with is a very recent phenomena. You're going to find that the earlier you go back, the less of this kind of weak Christian stigma is going to exist. I hope this really is sinking in. And you know, it's funny is because despite what has been done to them, you're going to find the opposite. Of course, this has a lot to do with after the 1960s when integration actually happened, and then all of a sudden you've seen this very different formation that took on with the black church. But anyway, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and play this 12-minute clip. I hope this is very insightful. What was the black church really like? Well, why don't you hear from themselves? These are clips from young people and mainly the old people.
For me, the religion is not as big as a problem as other people perceive it to be. And that's because, for me, it's not what a person believes religiously, but how they think politically, economically, and culturally that determines whether or not we can work together for the benefit of our people. If I look at the example that the Honorable Marcus Garvey left us with, one of the reasons why his movement was the largest and the most successful we had in modern times is because he never attacked the religion, nor did he try to change it. When you look at most leaders after Marcus Garvey, they all brought a religion, every one of them. Honorable Elijah Muhammad brought Islam. Noble Drew Ali brought Islam. Dr. King brought Christianity, and so forth and so on. So the wisdom of Garvey, which I agree with, was that he said, leave the religion alone. You're not going to be able to change people's religions. In fact, we're conditioned to back away from anyone who disagrees with our religious beliefs. So the way in which black people are indoctrinated will cause division if anyone tries to get them to think outside of the box. So I steer clear of people's religions. If I can change the way that they think politically and economically, they will come to a point where they may soon question their own religion without any outside interference.
We came out of 3 years of the most atrocious human deconditioning and conditioning process in the history of man. And despite some legacies that I talk about in my book that are problematic that we need to know about, those things are minor compared to the fact that we are even here. Don't you know that most human beings would not have been able to endure that situation and come out human? We came out human. We didn't come out with any kind of perverse sense of bloodthirstiness. Maybe we should have gotten a little bit. But I'm serious. We didn't come out as being sadistic Nazi types who wanted to watch people bleed to pay for our hardships. You know, we didn't come out with a loss of our respectability and our conscience. We came out as a spiritual people with a spiritual consciousness. We came out trusting in the dignity of humanity. We came out with a forgiving spirit. We came out with a commitment to human resilience and human direction. We came out with a commitment to be able to typify the best of human characteristics. We came out, brothers and sisters, with the best example of humanity in this country. We who were most dehumanized ended up being the models of humanity. Ain't that tough? That's some bad stuff there. Listen, you don't believe me?
Unless we get off on blaming the white man. Is that what this is about? Blaming the white man. It's the white man. It's the white man. It's the white man. My Bible says in Joshua 1:8, no man shall be able to stand before you, Joshua. As I was with Moses, I will be with you. We give white people too much credit. You miss that. Racism. What Mrs. Butler also taught me in 1861, if we were inferior, there'd be no need to discriminate. They know more about you than you know about yourself. You don't discriminate against inferior people.
Which we claim to be revolutionary. I read the Gospels. See, I do all kinds of stuff people don't know. I get inspiration from Jesus. Period. I do. Okay? And we know he was actually born in my month, August. He was not born December 27th. He was changed by the church. He was a Leo, like me and Leo Lion, son! So I take inspiration from the Gospel. No, I'm not joking. I read the Gospels. I got a copy in my car. I'm not lying to you. Sometimes when things get a little tough for me, I pull out Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and I read what he had to say. I get inspiration from that. There's strength in the Bible. If it's used correctly, the Bible could be a revolutionary tool. Problem is so often our community uses what? Exploitation and mind control. But it could be revolutionary. Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey was a Christian. Gave us the largest black organization of all time. He was a Christian man. So it don't matter if you're Muslim or Christian. I'm looking for whether or not you manifest God in your life.
Once you understand the spiritual unity, the spiritual power, the spiritual message, then you can start restoring your peoplehood. Yes, men, we need you to be men, but we need women to be women too.
Look at it.
We can only be a team if we are both trying to get human together. We have got to both. It ain't my job by myself, sister. You got to come get human too. Don't send me out to get human by myself. Come on, baby. Let's go get human together.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but do you know in jail, our best minds are there? Do you know how many Malcolm X's are in jail right now? Do you know what kind of potential they have?
They saw, look, go study the slave revolt, the Maroons. Go study the slaves that gave the white folks the most trouble. In South America, in Brazil, they decreed no Muslim slaves were to be brought back into Brazil. Because a group of them came in there and they kicked so much butt. They still remember it. They still remember it. South Carolina, North Carolina, wherever there were large numbers of Muslims coming in, they had trouble with revolting slaves. Now, please understand now, I believe that Islam and Christianity have the same ingredients in it because I think that Denmark Vesey as a Christian developed the same kind of power. Marcus Garvey, coming in as a Christian, began with the same kind of thing. So I don't think it's implicit. I think that one has to break out of certain other colonizing influences before they can use Christianity to make it work for them. And listen, and the main thing that must be broken out of is the implicit white supremacy that's tied in with the symbolism that's Christianity. That's the problem. Now, hear me right now, because I know I'm in the Bible Belt and I know y'all shout and pray all the time. So listen. I want you to hear me right. Christianity in its fundamental epistemology and ontology and axiology is an African religion. The Bible and Quran have access to that spiritual order. And then what he began to do, he began to show how every story in the books was talking about us. They talked about the captives in Egypt. He said, that's you. They began to talk about Babylon. He said, that's you. Began to talk about the beast in the Revelation. That's you. And then he began to talk about Adam, the original man, in the first book. He says, that's you too. Talked about Jesus. He said, that's you. Talked about Elijah. He said, that's me. Talked about Joshua. Said, that's us. Talked about Solomon. Talked about all of them. Talked about David. Talked about every symbol in the book. Talked about Noah. Talked about the flood. What he did was restored the isolated, cold, dead letter scriptures that had become excuses for looking for facts that had been immortalized and monumentalized in a stone-dead structure. He brought them back to life. So no longer was the Red Sea over there. Red Sea was getting from Selma into Mississippi. The Red Sea was trying to get past the Klan. The Red Sea was trying to get human beings, African Americans, to begin to once again take control of their lives and their activities. But look what he did in the process. He reconnected us with an understanding that spiritual truth transcends time, person, place, and thing. Could it possibly be that this dead man called Lazarus, who was put down in the grave, who was buried in a deep, deep grave, and who was pronounced dead upon arrival, and why people mourned and cried and said, Lazarus is dead. Master, if you had only come a little earlier, Lazarus would still be alive. And they said that Lazarus, the so-called image of Jesus, who is the resurrection principle, which is the Horus principle, which is the Osirian principle there again, if in fact that same principle is working now, why shouldn't he be able to walk over to the grave and say, Lazarus, come forth? And Lazarus came forth with a napkin still on his face and say, I'm back. Check it out, and you can't touch this. If that happened, why shouldn't it be possible that in 1991, Ivan Van Sertima begins to tell us some stories we didn't hear anymore and says, Lazarus, get up. Why shouldn't Dr. Maulana Karenga be able to look through the ancient script of African people and begin to put together the principles that are found in the book of Coming Forth by Day and the sacred text of African people and say, this is about you, Lazarus, get up. Why shouldn't Bishop Stallings be able to stand up against the most powerful religious organization on the planet today, wealthier and more powerful than any other, and say to him, you may be bad, but you ain't as bad as my God. Lazarus, come forth. Why shouldn't we be able to understand that the same dead death that we find in Jesus, who was put into the tomb on Friday after crucifixion, how do we know that that was not a story about 100 million African people who were brought from the west coast of Africa to the east coast of America and paved the way with their bones? How do we know that was not the story of African women being raped, murdered, slaughtered, African men being mutilated, dismembered, castrated, killed for 300 years? How do we know that that was not the picture of one who was pierced in the hands so he couldn't do nothing for himself, had thorns on his brain so he couldn't think for himself, was pierced in his feet so he couldn't even walk for himself? Then they came with a sword and put it in our hearts so we couldn't even feel for ourselves. How do we know that we are not Jesus? And how do we know this is not Sunday, the third day? Lazarus, get on up.
Now, to be honest, that was the wrong clip. I meant to play that last. But, you know, I do believe that everything does happen for a reason. You know, that was a clip I wanted to play last. That was a clip to show that what was the mindset of the older generations of the conscious community about African American Christianity and about the church in general. That's what I wanted to show you. You know, why is it that they have a very different take on the way that they view Christianity? Why is it that they would take all of their beliefs and kind of show their similarities, and from those similarities, they would show compatibility and possibility and, you know, mobility, right? To be able to galvanize, energize, and engage and get people moving, right? Why is it that they ended up borrowing the concept and the reality of preaching, which came directly from the church? This is why my position about the conscious community is that I think there's something that the earlier generations realized. They just realized that the conscious community was actually just an extension of the church. Now, of course, the Christians would never say that because they say that, they have a different kind of spiritual leaning and direction. But the earlier conscious community was very communal with the church. And that is because they had a different relationship with the church, and they realized that they needed it as well. But I see that throughout time, something changed. But before I get there, I want to go ahead and jump back and go ahead with what I had planned. I'm going to go ahead and read a few snippets of my notes to really answer some of these questions about, Christianity. Just give me a moment here. So a while back, I wrote a very sharp article, and I know I'm not going to get through it all. I'm just definitely not, because I really do respect everyone who are listening, but, I'm not going to get through it all, so I'm going to be skipping a lot of material. I like to hear it. Here it goes. Interjection number 1, Christianity in Africa. Some say that, quote, Africa was just fine until Christianity and Islam came to the continent. We had our own gods and goddesses until the white man came through missionaries and monks, which served us from our own cultural heritage. As a people, we had no need for Jesus or any foreign thing to our people. Jesus is guilty of the slave trade for inspiring Paul's writings. This is what people have actually kind of said. And so this all seems quite valid on the surface until you, as a 16-year-old or however old you are, start testing these views against what history has left behind and peeling through the layers of time. How is it that an old Ethiopian Old Testament manuscript that dates from the 6th century is found? There was a guy named Ted Erha of Durham University. He found that, this script dates prior to the reign of Solomon, and it dates to 1270 BC. Just to skip a whole bunch of other things, you had also in Acts chapter 8:27, you had an Ethiopian guy who was a eunuch of the official court of Queen Candace, right? And he was on his way to Jerusalem, and he was reading Isaiah. You think he might have come across the Old Testament passage of quote saying, are you not the Cushites to me? Are you not like the Cushites to me, O people of Israel, declares the Lord? Did I not bring up Israel from the land of Egypt, and the Philistines from Kaphor, and the Syrians from Kir? Amos 9:7. You think he might have not have come across that? How is it possible that not only you had an Ethiopian church, but you also had in Alexandria, Egypt, the Coptic Church, which by tradition they say was started by the Apostle Mark in 45 AD. It was a long-standing Jewish community where the Christians eventually went, where Coptic Orthodox Christians took their root, and Ethiopia gave birth to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which still they both stand today. All these centuries and millennia of 1,600 years goes to show that the earliest Judaism and Christianity had its home in specific areas in Africa long before European invaders used the religion to usurp African people. So this begs a question. With all of what we know about Africa and Christianity, did Europeans introduce a religion unfamiliar to Africans? The answer is no. Okay? You could actually look you can actually look in Acts 11, and basically it speaks about how you had a lot of Jews who were still, for all intents and purposes, still spreading the gospel among their own people first. And then finally, later on, it was when they ended up spreading it to the Gentiles. So you can read that in Acts chapter 11. So who brought Christianity to who? Once again, I'm going to go through and skip a lot of material here. I'm trying to get to the next objection. So, there was also something that happened in Ethiopia. There was an Ethiopian kingdom of Aksum, and he set up a community there where, under the protection of the Christian Ethiopian king, the Muslims actually ended up having some safety. So this dismantles the assertion of Islam positing Christianity being the white man's religion. Why is it that they're flocking to Ethiopia if this is the case? Like I said, I could do this all day. There's other things as well. So regarding this whole notion of, well, Matthew, so real, doesn't the Bible support slavery? The short answer is that the Bible doesn't support slavery. The long answer is as follows from a Skeptic Christianity website. It says, regarding kidnapping and slavery, please view the following text from the Torah. Exodus 21, verse 16. He who kidnaps a man, whether he sells him or he is found in his possession, shall surely be put to death. Deuteronomy 24:7. Ironic. If a man is caught kidnapping any of his countrymen of the sons of Israel, and he steals with him violently or sells him, then that thief, he called him a thief, then that thief shall die. So you shall purge the evil from among you. In layman's terms, if European colonizers were pulling this stuff during Old Testament times, they would be put to death by being stoned, according to the Bible, period. 1 Timothy chapter 1, verses 9 through 10, it says, the law is not laid down for the just, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and the sinners, for the unholy and profane, for those who strike their fathers and mothers, for murderers, for sexually immoral, for men who practice homosexuality, enslavers, men stealers, liars, perjurers, and whatever else is contrary to sound doctrine. So, the New Testament shows that the punishment of the law, which is the Old Testament, would apply to colonizers. Let's sink in for a minute. It demonstrates that the idea of slavery was not the same as the kind that we saw in colonial times. At the time, tradesmen went to Africa, kidnapped people, and brought them to the Americas to sell them to the highest bidder. Again, according to these passages, such a practice would be a capital punishment in the Old Testament. Instead, persons who were slaves were usually indentured servants or employees paying off a debt. A resident employee who temporarily was living in the employee's household to work off his debt to him. Sometimes it was used for reasons such as when financial disaster hit a particular household, the family would often sell themselves into service to help pay the bills. Other times, it was for foreign nations in Canaan who had prisoners at the time. Who had been judged by God as criminals of prisoners of war. There were no prisons at the time. This clearly is not the type of slavery we usually see and think of today. The slavery mentioned in the Old Testament was usually an indentured servanthood and was a very different kind of institution than the New World slavery that developed in modern times. So, back to the Americas. There's no long-lasting history of Christianity over there yet, which makes this conversation fair game on both sides. Since the Bible does not support the actions that whites use in the name of the Bible, it automatically eliminates any incrimination of the Bible Christianity from being the root of the blame and leaves that accusation for man and the condition of sin, not the Bible. If you look carefully at Christianity in the Americas, you may have it in your mind that this is where Jesus was forced on blacks the most. I'm not denying that, such a forcing took place, but to what degree? And above all, what did the Africans actually do about it? But again, looking at the whole story only reveals the opposite to be just as true as the common claims. The word slave in the New Testament is often the first idea people run to without any without any doing or digging into any evidence to support their concept. Colossians 3 is usually used, the book they point to so they can know of it, but the term slave in those early times and areas were commonly used as a term slave with the same meaning as our modern day job worker as the word employee. This alone blows away the idea that European chattel slavery was theologically backed by the Bible. Even more, the vast majority of servants of all kinds at the time of the Greek and Roman world were slaves. In most districts, slaves were much more numerous than the free population, and they were undoubtedly numerous in the early church. The gospel has always been welcome to the poor and oppressed. So, free were likely to be wealthy business people and government officials, and physicians and fishermen were slaves and servants. So what about the American slave masters? It didn't stop them from misinterpreting scriptures. Yes, this is true. But what is also true is that the slave masters use a poorly interpreted scripture or two to maintain their slaves, and they did all this so they can prevent the African Americans from becoming Christians in the fullest of the sense. Now, why is this? Please pay attention. Now, listen, this comes from a book from my good brother-in-law, Tyree Griffey. He had let me borrow this book one time. It was a book called Black and Reformed. Of course, I'm not Reformed, but this is a very powerful book. This is what the book pretty much I gleaned from it. It says, we have accounts from missionaries who fought to convert slaves, complaining that slaveholders refused them permission to catechize their slaves because baptism made it necessary to free them. The rights of baptized citizens under the British Crown and Church wasn't clearly communicated. So to keep their slaves, they did not take a liking to missionaries or conversion of slaves, lest they risked being known for freeing slaves through Christian conversion of baptism. So now you could all of a sudden see why whites actually end up stopping slaves from becoming Christians now. At first, they plowed it on, but then they realized, wait a minute, we have a bit of a problem. We kind of forgot about some stuff over here, especially if you're a slave master and you didn't hear about it. In 1706, there were 6 legislatures that were passed that stated saying, quote, denying baptism altered the condition of a slave as to his bondage or freedom, end quote. So they had to put that in there to buffet away the long history of a new citizenship that a baptism person would have, right? If a white person was baptized and a black person was baptized, that would make them equal for heaven. What kind of people get in heaven? Human people. Humans have souls. What was a common notion that you can look in your high school history book? African Americans were 3.5 human, so therefore they really didn't have souls. Do you see how this is all piecing together very simply? Virtually little to no slaves were Christians prior to the Revolutionary War. So, did whites force Christianity on us after all? Yes, but not after all. Then where is this idea coming from? It's coming from when blacks actually did convert to Christianity from whites, apart from whites. That's where it's coming from. It's just not the way that you've been told it happening. So to keep all of this very, very, very short. A slow process began to take place with blacks converting to Christianity. But what did the whites do? They segregated their congregations. This is why you could look up something called the Southern Methodist Belt, right? What was up with the Southern Methodists? What was so different about them? Well, that was an example. Does this sound like forcing Jesus on anyone to you? No. Slaves complained that Presbyterian, Episcopalian, and Anglican churches were hard to understand, while Baptist and Methodist churches spoke a gospel that was plain, clear, comprehensible, and readily understood and experienced. So, when Methodists evangelized blacks, it wasn't long that the black preachers stepped forward. The logic was, who better to evangelize African Americans than the very person who knows the communication and ways to connect with them the best? Keep in mind that this was brought about with the start of the revival movements that Baptists and Methodists brought along. I could go on into more details, quotes, and references, but this is a brief, detailed piece, not an exhaustive essay, at least not this time. I say all of this to urge you to look into the reasons why our people followed Jesus. This is just the Christian vine, not even touching Islam or Judaism here. And so, there was one thing that I did also want to read, but for sake of time, it's already 10:51, and that means I only have 1 hour left to hear from you all. And, of course, after midnight, there is a after show hour where it lasts till 1 o'clock and then the phone hangs up. But the last piece that I was going to read, but I will not read, are the 3 biggest slave revolts in American history. And guess what? They were brought about by Christians, actual black Christians. I was reading about some of these people, and some of them drew inspiration from when you had the Egyptians being freed from slavery. Others end up drawing inspiration from when Jesus spoke about a new Jerusalem coming down from heaven, right? When everything was all right. And the 3 people's names were Gabriel Prosser, right, in 1800. The second one was Denmark Vesey. Oh, man. You know what? Maybe next time I'll actually read you some of these stories, and they're very, very interesting. And finally, the third one was Nat Turner. These people were deeply Christian. So these are the 3 individuals. And also, I didn't even get into, I believe it was Alan. You have the Amistad. That has a Christian root. I didn't even get to read about Richard Allen, who was a guy, I believe it was in Philadelphia, and, the Methodists basically didn't like the blacks there, so they kicked them out. But what did he do? Did he end up just going to African religion? No. He started his own church. And I believe it was from the African Methodist Episcopal people that you had Bishop somebody who ended up saying that God is a man of color. But yet, how can they say things like this when Christianity was supposed to, quote-unquote, dumb them down, docile them down, and all these other kind of, claims that the black conscious atheist community always claimed. But yet, when you look in history, you don't find African-American Christians being painted in the way that the black conscious atheist people end up painting them. It's the exact opposite. How can you have 3 of the biggest slave revolts done by Christians and they're reading? I'll tell you why. I came to my own conclusion. Yes, they try to do many things. Matter of fact, I would read from a website where it has 9 things that whites try to do to get them to become Christians, and the reason why it didn't work. But anyway, one conclusion I came to is, yes, they probably did end up doing the white Jesus thing where they would put the image of a white Christ there, and this was somehow supposed to make them subservient, but there was a problem. African Americans seem to slowly or actually quickly gravitate toward the Bible. And when they started actually reading the Bible, the whole white Jesus campaign just totally fell from the wayside. You know, and this is the reason why you actually see more blacks becoming Christians. And so the whole notion that comes from the other conscious side saying, oh, you know, they became Christians because they were forced on them and they were hypnotized by the white Jesus. No, they became Christians because of what they were, you know, reading in the Bible. Okay, when you open up that book and you start reading some things, and that's another thing too. They had an incentive. They needed to read. Why not read what was actually your belief? Oh, and let's add in even more to it. Once they start reading it, and they start seeing some contradictions in their white slave masters. Well, how do you think they're going to teach? Okay, is this making sense? There was another thing that I was supposed to read from NPR about how call and response kind of got really, really popular because the preacher who, you know, read from the hymnals, he would read part of the hymnals and the whole church would respond. That was an African concept, especially when they were illiterate a little bit back then. And so people who couldn't read, they just heard what the pastor sung, and then the whole church would sing. This is the reason why you had things like the altar call and the coming of the Holy Spirit, because if you're in time of great darkness, then of course you're going to want to have a worship that you can not only sing, but you can feel. You want some connection with the Holy Spirit. That's the reason why that was so emphasized in the black church. I mean, look at it. Look in Egypt. They prayed and cried out to God for 400 years. So how do you think their times with God were like back in Exodus? Okay, is this making sense? Is this something very easily understood? So yes, you could come with things that they did, with books that they tried to read to them, and rules that slave masters had to really try to implement. But yet they were scared, because they were scared that the slave revolts were imminent. I repeat myself. They were scared that slave revolts were imminent, especially if you had 3 of them. And also there were rumors about the one that happened in Haiti. Now, that one was not done by a Christian man. That was done by a man of an African traditional religion. All right? And that's what they're afraid of, on top of them already being afraid of the second coming, right? The second coming, where you had the Millerites and the Philadelphians and the Jehovah's Witnesses and, you know, all those Seventh-day Adventists. There are another ones where they tried to predict the second coming. So, yes, there was this heated time where things were imminent. Read this history. So right now I'm on really good time. It is exactly 10:58, and, you know, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead. The other 10-minute clip that I meant to play, the one that actually described what black Christians were like, what black slave Christians were actually like. This is a clip that I meant to play first, but now you can hear from these people themselves, okay? Some snippets of this come from an older documentary from the 1990s, so now you can go ahead and trace how old those people were and when they were born. And then some of them comes from a bit of a newer documentary, right? And then, of course, I have snippets of individuals that end up giving their own spill about things. So let me go ahead and play this clip here, and you could see for yourselves what the African-American slaves were like. Were they docile? Did white Christianity really work on them the way that the conscious community claims? To me, it doesn't seem like it. You can listen to this clip for yourself. Just a moment.
We came out of 3 years of the most...
Sorry about that. Having some technical difficulties here. Oh, wow. It seems the clip is still processing even after it uploaded. Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and play this from my phone. So just give me a moment, and I'm going to use a speaker. I'm going to put this speaker up to my phone, and this clip is 10 minutes and 36 seconds. Just a moment. Okay, here we go. Please listen and enjoy.
The black church in people's lives is first of all to gain a sense of spiritual grounding. And then after a sense of spiritual grounding, you get a sense of spiritual upliftment. And then from acquiring spiritual upliftment, you move over to the form of spiritual empowerment.
Well, before and after slavery, the black church played a variety of roles. One reason being it was, to the degree it was possible in the United States, it was independent. Black ministers worked for black people. Black people paid their salaries and safeguarded the institutions. You have a prominent member of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, one of the bishops, in fact, Henry McNeil Turner, in 1895 in Atlanta, Georgia, the same year that Booker T. Washington gives his speech in Atlanta. Henry McNeil Turner gives a speech in which he argues that God is a Negro and that black folks are mistaken, if not stupid, if they worship a God that looks nothing like them. So push forward, and you have figures like James Cone arguing that God is indeed black.
We were together, but we were not permitted to sit with them on the sanctuary floor. We worshiped together, but we were not permitted to sit with them on the sanctuary floor in the loft. But they gave us a church so we could sit together. Right here is two of our founders, Hattie Flanagan and James Boyd, and our church was founded during the time of slavery, and we're the oldest black church in Pine Bluff.
It's the third edifice, and it served as a school building for this part of the community in 1937 and 38. I attended school here, and of course, Mr. Roberta's Bank, y'all bring him in here, was also a student at this school at that time, and the way that came about, Mr. Bryant right here, the way that came about is we lived approximately 7.25 miles from the Cheryl Rosenwald School, and my dad and Mr. Elliott Brown, who is the father of Mrs. Nelson, and his picture is on one of the posters here. They petitioned the county school board, and of course, we held church here. And the teacher was Mrs. Mary Nixon Robinson.
Parishioners depended on him to know the issues and direct them in the way they should go.
The black church used to be the source of the power of the black community. The school principal and the school minister in the community were the two most powerful black people in the community. The school principal and the school minister in the community were the two most powerful black people in the community. And both the black people knew that, and the whites knew it. Because the whites would get that black minister or that black principal, and they would tell them how they want things to go in the community. And all the blacks on one side of the track and whites on the other. But now that with integration, with the communities coming together and the housing pattern changing, that's lost. You got new organizations now that assume that role. And all the blacks on one side of the track and whites on the other. But now that with integration, with the communities coming together and the housing pattern changing, that's lost. You got new organizations now that assume that role.
When I was growing up and enrolled as a student at the Newtown Elementary School, it was a policy and practice of the churches to send ministers to speak to the student body on a regular basis. The purpose of their visits was not to persuade the young people to embrace either the Baptist church or the Methodist church, but to advise them that my neighbor is my brother, and that we should strive diligently to assist each other in resolving problems. And if we have problems, try to resolve them around the conference table. If you're not able to do that, carry the matter to the church and let the church officials resolve the issues instead of carrying these matters to the courts.
The deacons built the church. Didn't have by hand. Because I was a young man then, and I could see them building a foundation. I could see them putting up the walls. They just did everything. The deacons did.
Oh, when I first remember it was just a little small church with brick paper. You remember brick paper time when you put the brick paper, the little invitation brick? Well, that was surrounded, and it was just a little small church.
They said how they study the Bible unless they learn to read. So after that, the church grew, and they said, let us build a school. They used this spot not only as a church, but it wasn't for education, and it was also a recreational place for recreation too.
The church here was an anchor for the community, and everything revolved or evolved around the church and the church life. I understand picnics and barn raisings and canning of food and slaying of livestock to have meat. All of it sort of evolved. It wasn't one family did it. The church as a community, as I understand it, did a lot of these things. And we shared those goods. We shared the meat. We shared the produce. They shared everything. They even harvest together. And one thing that always amazes me is how did men farm, raise a family, and take care of their family, and yet took time out of that schedule to hand build this church, to mold the stone, to do the carpentry work, to find the windows, to put everything in place. And it was a 5-hour trip from here by wagon. It was a 5-hour trip from here to even Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and a round trip of 10 hours. And so it amazes me that they could find that time to clear the land, to farm, to raise a family, and then out of that same togetherness, to come together and build a church.
And the women would bring lunch to the men to eat and water for them to drink. And they also said that the old ladies would pray over the bricks after they were molded and finished.
There's hours over there more than anything I've seen over here, even on the main line, and I'm not lying to you. I went to a farm and seen a 3-story house that they told me was made from the ground. They made it from the soil and the mud of the ground. I said, what? 3 stories, brick red, windows and everything. I just say that. I seen 85-year-old women still in the farm with a thing on their head working like they 20. Black men telling me we don't get prostate cancer over here because it ain't gonna be down. Y'all call it progress. We don't. Y'all dying over there through your progress. They didn't know progress was supposed to kill. And it's going over there. See, one thing about Africa that I learned, they're wise enough to know that they don't need to have everything that gets created. They don't. They like it the old way. And I like it the old way too. Because the bottom line is if I can give up all this education and everything we done got over here and be able to go back there and know where I came from and be able to take it back and maybe again to the very first ancestors, I'd give it up over. Good kids over there can give you their whole history from the first one where they migrated from.
The black church. It's mind-boggling because the material that I have, the meticulous stuff that I didn't even read about the slave revolts and just other little meticulous things that I didn't even go through in my article that I pieced together. just look at what Dr. Umar Johnson said in that last clip. Did he not just describe the black church and how they built their churches from the ground up? I mean, even on the documentary itself, there was actually a second account of people building their church from the ground up, and they actually go into more detail than the account that I gave you, which is the reason why I chose that one, because it was a lot shorter. Because tonight's show, I always like to have balance. Yes, I like to say some things, but of course I like to always open up the floor for calls, for dialogue. But I find this episode very interesting because last time when I had an open topic, and you guys can listen to this on my SSOREAL, I had atheists coming out the wazoo. And now, after I, lay a case to show some things to think about, I only have one caller on the line. I don't know who they are, but they've been waiting for a very long time. I got everybody else just listening. They got a total of 16 callers. And if you called in and you do want to end up talking, there's one more thing you got to do. You just have to hit the number 1. Once you hit the number 1, you'll go from a listener to a candidate to get called on to speak. I'll see the blue icon. I'll click on it, and then from there, you definitely can be heard. But I do see a private number. Their hold time is 30 minutes, and I'd like to just open up the floor, just based on what's been spoken about tonight. Just a moment. Okay, 111, you're on the air. 111, you're on the air.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How are you? And where are you from?
Yeah, thank Jesus that you finally opened the lines up, brother.
Right, I know. It takes a bit of a while, so I apologize. I'll try to be shorter next time, too. But I hope that
I think you probably knocked other people out with the Holy Spirit or something, But
oh man,
I'm not too familiar with you, brother. What's your name?
My name is Matthew Sully, aka So Real. I'm from McKeesport, mainly Pittsburgh. From Pittsburgh, black and yellow. You know how we do. We bleed black and gold, Steelers Nation, the whole nine. So yeah.
Okay, so are you a Black Jesus minister disciple?
Oh goodness. I actually met him only a month ago.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, no, I'm just a Christian, but he's a close friend of mine, someone I recently met, mainly through a big bout of laughter. A friend of mine was actually, hosting a show, LeBron G Consciousness. He was going against a guy named Awar the Swordsman, and they opened up the call line. And all of a sudden, this dude just calls, and he has his voice that's just making me crack up. I dropped my weights because I was lifting at the time, and I couldn't take it. I was laughing to death, so I made a funny video about him, and he pretty much shared it everywhere. And long story short, here I am. So
okay,
yeah,
all right, yeah. There's one thing I noticed that I want to mention. Aside the fact that you and Black Jesus, you guys, don't like to open the floor too much for the calls. I got to say this though. You guys talk Christianity a lot and Jesus, but yet I noticed that you guys always discuss Africa and always relate it to Africa and all this kind of stuff. Why do you guys do that?
Well, the reason why we do it is because, I'm going to speak just from a personal point. I'm not only a man of God, but I'm also a man, and I'm of African descent. And, when I look at the condition of, African people all around the world, I've always felt from a young age as a boy to intrinsically do something about it. And so when, I was baptized at 13, I immediately started just reading about the life of Jesus. And what I noticed was he ended up doing things around him as well. And I started to notice that, his people, the Jews, they weren't in the brightest situation either. And they were under Roman occupation. And, yet, Jesus rose up, and of course, he decided to do something for it, but not just for the Jews, but of course he decided to do something for the whole world. And so I noticed
that
for
the Hebrew Israelites, it's for the Jews only, though.
Right, but they borrow that from another doctrine, and not only that, but no one's ever come to that conclusion ever. The closest conclusion that people have come to that was actually a sect, a heretical sect in the 2nd century called the Ebionites. And you can look them up. Google the Ebionites. The early church fought against them. They were individuals that did not like Paul very much because they said that Paul taught against keeping the law. You can read in Acts 21, and the Jews had said the same thing, that Paul teaches against keeping the law. They also believed that salvation was only for Jews. So, but that was put down as a heretical teaching because, well, no one believed it, and it was new.
Okay, so I guess what you're saying is that since you're a black man who claims African descent, even though all black people are not African, I gotta let you know that. So I guess that's the reason why you kind of relay it back to Africa a lot.
Yeah, the reason why I relay things back to Africa a lot is because, once again, like I said, I just feel as an American male that I'm to do something for, the obligation of my own race, in addition to everybody else.
How come you can't wait for Jesus to take care of things?
Well, because Jesus actually works through means. I mean, God has always worked through means. I mean, look, he even said, greater things that you will do than me. I mean, he even said to Peter, he said, Peter, do you love me? And Peter said, well, yeah, I do. He said, well, feed my sheep. He's asked him again, Peter, do you love me? And, Peter said, well, yes, I do. He said, well, feed my sheep. And finally, Jesus asked him a third time, Peter, do you really love me? And he said, Jesus, you know I love you. And he said, well, feed my sheep. And so that was basically
how come Jesus couldn't feed his own sheep?
Well, Jesus actually did. He led by example. He actually was more of a both-and case. That's why you have things like the miracle of the 5,000, where you fed people with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. And even in that case where he was leading by example, you read in the accounts, and Jesus said, here, you feed them. And so it was more of like a relational kind of thing. God seems to be very big on...
Sounded like a master-slave relationship, because Jesus didn't seem to want to do anything. He wanted everybody else to do it. Let me ask you this.
Well, I don't know. That just kind of contradicted what I just said, because it says that Jesus actually blessed the bread, broke it, and he multiplied it, and he fed 5,000 people with the help of his disciples. And not only that, but if you say there's a master-servant relationship, that also goes against what Jesus said when he said, listen, I don't call you servants, but I call you friends. He said the servants don't know what the master is doing, but the friends do. And he said, what greater love is a person that lays down his life for his friends. So I don't think that you'll find any kind of servants with how Jesus treats people,
I can say that pimps kind of use that kind of language, but let me go and just say this real quick. Do you
well, sure. But that language is the Bible. I just wanted to make that clear. But go ahead.
Do you agree that God is the master and creator of all?
Well, yeah, but also about tonight's subject. But also about tonight's subject. Tonight's subject was, linking economic solutions and ending black church myths. And so far, you haven't touched on anything that I've laid out.
Because the sermon, no disparaging comments towards you, but the sermon was so long I kind of forgot about the main topic. But I will say this.
Oh,
let me
okay.
just say this real quick, and I'm going to touch on that topic, though. But let me just ask you this: do you believe God is the creator of all, and the commander?
Yeah.
Okay, so that
Say it
means
again.
God can do any. Yeah, so that means that God can do anything that he, she, or it chooses, right?
I would assume so. I mean,
do you assume so, or do you know?
Well, actually, I don't know. I mean, I would assume that God is all powerful, and he can do whatever he pleases. I mean, that's
okay.
as far as I know.
That's good, right? That's good right there. He can do whatever he pleases. So, common sense would ask us, why does God have to come up with the Jesus and tell us to write a book and read what God thinks and believes from a book? And there's also Quran, Torah, Buddhist, all these other so-called religions. Why does he do that instead of just implanting what he wants us to know and follow in our mind? Just like he implants it when we're born, we know that we have to eat, sleep, and go to the bathroom. Those are the things that we know we must do. So how come God just can't say, okay, well, I'll implant the rules that I want you to follow in your mind? Just like animals know, a cat grows up and knows, hey, I have to kill a creature that I don't even know about, but I know once I'm born, I see that creature, I know I have the talent within me to kill, and I must eat it. So how come we can't just obey God within our minds, within ourselves, from his command?
You know what? I think that tells a lot about God. Like the way that he had decided to set this whole thing up. I think that tells a lot about him. And one thing that I'm always big on is that the way that God set things up tells a lot about his own nature. I think that the reason he did it was actually for kind of interconnected relational realities. I mean, if you hold on, I wasn't actually even finished saying what I was saying yet. I was actually trying to answer. I was actually trying to answer your question. No, but that's the thing. I'm trying to answer your. I actually can answer your question. I just thought that you would listen, so you could actually hear my answer that connects directly to what you're saying. So like I was saying, like the reason why I think that, well, I'm sorry, but you're the first person ever that I actually had to put on mute. So I'm going to go ahead and say my answer, and then after that, I'll take you back off mute, and we could continue to have a talk, and after that, there's one extra caller. I'd end up saying that I think that the way that God set all this kind of up kind of speaks a lot about him. And you could see that, there's a lot of interconnectedness to everything that you were saying. And that tells a lot about God's nature. If you look at the Trinity is basically just interconnected persons. That's what they are. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. There's this relationship. There's this interconnectedness. And if you look at creation, it's the same thing. Every single thing that God made, it has this purpose. But yet, there's not one single purpose that someone has that's not immediately connected to something else, right? Just like the animal intrinsically knows to eat something because his stomach is hungry, but yet he has to go to something to eat, right? Just like the seed ends up knowing within itself that it can grow and blossom into something, but it can't do that without the dirt. Oh, and let's not forget, the dirt can't do its thing without the moving of the water. Oh, and you know what? Let's not also forget that the water also comes from the clouds. Oh, but you know what? The clouds have to be in the right place to drop the water. Oh, but you know what? I believe the wind actually moves the clouds. So do you see what I'm saying? There's this interconnectedness. And so I believe that the reason why God ended up saying, okay, well, I'm not just going to intrinsically endow you with this, is because really there's nothing relational about that. I believe that God is very big on oneness, not through individualism, but through connectiveness, you know? I mean, it's almost like we don't produce asexually, do we? No. There's man, there's woman, and then there's this connection, and then from that comes something that neither of us can do apart from each other, you know? Now, of course, you can go into androgynous stuff and things like that, but then you totally miss my point, you know, especially based on the fact that, you know, well, male and female reproduction is still a actual process. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute you and then just, you know, hear what you have to say, and hopefully I've directly answered what you're concerned about. And then after that, I'll get to the next caller because they've been waiting for 13 minutes. So just a second.
All right.
Okay,
thank you.
You're live.
All right, thank you. Part of the reason I wanted to interrupt is because you definitely have some Black Jesus Minister traits about you, and because you said that you thought. So you just went by what you thought. So we got to get to the facts. And also, I got to make a little correction. The wind doesn't move the clouds, and the clouds don't have to be in the right place exactly for rain either, you know. So, you know, that's incorrect. But, you know, God, no man can speak for God, because if you can speak for God, that means you must have met him. And if you can tell me what God is thinking, you need to introduce God to the rest of us. That's what I got to say. And with that, I'm gonna let you get to the next caller. But in the future, though, brother, you gotta kind of be concise in your statements, because you don't want to get like Black Jesus Minister and taking years.
All right, yeah.
You know.
I'll definitely work on that. Yeah. I appreciate your feedback, you know, and I'll just let the audience decide, you know, for clarity. So, thank you, bro.
All right, thank you. All right.
Yep. Now, I could have chased that down with another response easily, but I'm just going to let that rest and just let the crowd think whatever. All right. And next, we have 111. You're on the air. 11. 14 minutes. Yeah.
No, brother. We there's a lot of other people that probably been and probably hung up because you're number one, you're long-winded. And a lot of people, hey, you have your show and you have your subject, but brother, you have to engage with the audience. That's why you have listeners and callers that call in to engage. And the reason why they're not calling in is because you're boring them. You're putting them to sleep. So I don't know if you ever heard the show before. Maybe you could get a little familiar with how the shows run. There's different hosts, and they run their stuff their own way, but they all engage with the audience. Mine is sometimes Black Jesus, which you have a lot of resemblance on, you know, and then he goes on long-winded. Brother, you got to make some subjects that people are interested in. People don't want to hear stuff all day, and then you don't want them to interact, or you want them to listen, but you don't give them the chance to because you're talking throughout the whole show. So let me get that out the way. Number two, okay, we could argue about this all day, about this religious stuff, and I've brought it up on many occasions, and Black Jesus brought it up today. You could know the Bible up and down. That's great. That's great. I'm not knocking your religion, whatever you read and whatever religion you're into. Let's turn that into something that you can actually use right now. Now, if you're trying to change people's minds, anybody and everybody's doing that. But how can we help communities that are suffering from situations right now in this day and age? Right now, people are suffering. They can't eat a Bible. They cannot build their house with a Bible. They can't survive hurricanes with just holding the Bible. So these great words that you have learned from, right, and all these great ideas that we don't have no proof of any of this, but yet, we know what, or we humanize, okay, this is how we supposed to act. This is what's bad. This is what's good, according to whatever. Okay, but we all know what pain is and what and just common sense things in the world, that how you treat people. If you got that information, great. Now we got to move on, because if you're not making anything tangible with that, you're not making any money in colleges, doing conferences and teaching these words, or taking that money and being able to allocate it to people that are suffering and that might not be so conscious as you. So I think that you need to look at, take a look back. I don't know how old are you, young brother, but you sound like you're young. Take a listen to some of the shows and also analyze what's going on around you, because there's a lot of people going through pain and suffering holding that Bible for a very long time, and nothing has been done with that. Now, again, mindsets do change. Yes, that's what we can put on fact, that people can change and, they work a different way. They might be a different person, the way their character is, but we still have the same issues. People are dying, and I'm going to tell you the last thing. There's a lot of people that claim this religion and all that, yet a lot of them are police officers, okay? A lot of them work in different sectors. You can even talk in armed forces. They all pray to God before they go to war, right? You got people that's religious, and they're in positions of power, and all they're doing is destruction, okay? So we got to take a look and really analyze what are the real issues here and what we really got to take serious. Because, again, people are dying every day. People are suffering diseases. And, again, with all the knowledge of books and everything, unless you educate yourself in different things and learn how to do experiments and learn about the human body, you're not going to be able to cure a disease with religion. All the praying in the world is not going to help the situation. Maybe mentally it will, but at the end of the day, that person still lives with those issues. So I think you got to take a look really deep into what's going on in this world. And like I said, I don't know what is the award of knowing the Bible back and forth. What is, if you're trying to prove yourself to something that you think is out there that's listening to you, and you're proving, I know this book and I'm following it and I'm going to get rewarded. Well, you know what? They say in this life that you should do things purely from your heart and not expect anything in return. So I would just say, do good things and do it for the pure humanity. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Respect them, and you can always disagree on things. That doesn't mean that you can't disagree. You don't have to listen to everything and understand it or try to understand it. There's going to be a lot of, people that don't agree with certain things. But I'm going to tell you, the fact is that we're here right now in this current time, and there's a lot of death and destruction. You want to tie God into everything? There's destruction happening on this earth that is, no matter what, if you have the power of the world and you can control things that are happening on this earth will not be happening. I'll leave it at that, man.
I really appreciate everything you said. I'm definitely going to try to really do some reflecting on the rhythm of, speaking and engaging with the callers. So I really do appreciate this. Yeah, it's my first show, and trying to do my very best. I'm always open for critique. Second thing I did want to say is you definitely chimed in on something that I said earlier, which you were there to hear it. I ended up saying that the reason why I'm allowing this to be my first show in these topics with linking economic solutions and ending black church myths is because I believe that if there is enough of this kind of talking to clear away any of the cobwebs of myths and misconceptions, this will immediately move people to mobilizing and actually collaborating and working together, because all of the cobwebs and myths are kind of dissipated. That was my inspiration for actually, putting these two subjects together, because, yes, I'm definitely all about doing something. As far as I'm concerned, I visit the sick at the hospital for people who get sick at my church, and also just other individuals who have had funerals, and I make sure I call them to see if they're all right. My job actually has me with one-on-one with kids who have basically anger and emotional issues. And, even, some of my students have called me dad by accident because of their need for a father figure in their life. And so, even with my T-shirt business, I had to put that down. Yes, my ultimate goal was actually to do it to the point where I could actually hire employees because, well, you and I are on the same page. But I had to put it down just for this year, just to kind of clear some things and some debts. So I think we're definitely on the same page in terms of doing something with what we believe and trying to make things better. About me knowing the Bible, nah, I don't pride myself on that. My whole focus is when I see individuals who are, arguing for whatnot, I just try to go in and just try to make clarity so that way, peace can be done and something can be done. Like, that's my thing. I don't care how much I know or don't know. That's just me. Everybody else, they got like a pride thing, whatever, I guess. Pray for them. But like I say, I'm not going to be long-winded. I thank you for what you said, man, and I'll definitely be reflecting on that. I'm going to go ahead to the next caller. And the next caller is 314. You're on the air. 314. You're on the air.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Hey, how's it going? Where you from?
I've been having problems with this handset.
Oh.
Look, I need to get a new one.
Oh, wait, is this a mama's boy?
Please don't embarrass me like that.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. How's it going, man?
It's Pianki. I'm doing pretty good.
All right.
I really have to compliment Jay. He finally was able to put a contendum of facts together in a single line. It made sense for a change. Maybe you ought to talk on this topic more often. I'm talking about Jay, the last caller. But,
yeah.
No, I take
fault.
it that, every now and then we have people that try to convince black folks about the legitimacy of characters in the Bible. You have had even some to go so far as to produce what's called African American Heritage Bible or African Heritage Bible and make all the characters black. Or should I say look like them. And a lot of this really isn't true. Not the characters, but given the times. And many of the characters. Like people say Paul was black. Well, how could Paul be black and his father was a Hittite, which is today present Turkey? It just don't make no sense. Mm-hmm. And somebody was mentioning about the rain falling from the clouds. Yeah, rain do fall from clouds. And why come those clouds having to concentrate over a certain place, and what's derived from it is floods, deadly floods? And then again, why come they're so segregated and stay away from areas that experience what's known as droughts, deadly droughts? You have to kind of wonder about this sometimes, You really do. So maybe the God, and everybody is privileged to having a God. And historically they did. From a historical content, every group had a God. And they took that God and put it on some sort of apparatus. Some people call it arks. And that was their banner that led them out to do war against other groups. Keep in mind, the other group also have their banner, so they went and bumped heads. And in the end,
Hello? 314, you're still live. he did mention some kind of equipment problem. I'll give him a few more seconds.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, you're good.
Yeah, I had to go to speakerphone. But anyway, like I was saying, I don't know where you lost me at, but in the war, somebody's God was upside down in the mud due to the infliction that was put on by the other side. So now all of a sudden their God and what their God say. Of course, men create gods historically. One day man didn't have one. Next day, after going through some deliberations and considerations, all of a sudden they had a God. But the thing that disturbed me so much, and I really is not as disturbed as I used to be, when black folks said that Christianity is an African religion. That is so far from the truth. My goodness. I mean, even if you just look at the movie Roots, why is it that Kunta Kinte was following Allah and Fiddler following Jesus? You ever ask yourself that question? It just kind of flew over your head. You didn't pay no attention to it.
No, I definitely not only ask questions, but I just tried to study why. I mean, of course, there were all kinds of people who went to Africa, and they
let's stick with Kunta Kinte and Fiddler now. Don't go no. Let's stay with that real quick. Why is it that Fiddler was calling on Jesus and Kunta Kinte spoke to Allah?
Well, once again, I think that had. Well, what did you say? Yeah, well, once again, I think that had a lot to do. I think that had a lot to do with the geographics of where perhaps they came from. I mean, everybody knows that when it came to a very rich individual. What'd you say?
Didn't Fiddler come from Africa too?
I think. Yeah. I mean, yeah, man. I know the faces and things more than I know the names. I need to watch Roots again.
Let me
throw. But yeah, I'd say that.
Let me give you a suggestion, maybe. Let me give you a quick suggestion for time's sake.
Okay.
If it's all right with you. Fiddler, Kunta Kinte had just been brought over, if I'm not mistaken. So Kunta Kinte was more affiliated with his tradition from where he came from. They're from Jufarie. But Fiddler, wasn't Fiddler born here? Wasn't Fiddler born in slavery? That's a question.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So Fiddler was born in slavery, and Fiddler was born into Christianity, I would say. Because I visited Jufarie, and Jufarie is Muslim. Got a big mosque there that was built by the Nation of Islam. And the people are still Muslim today.
Right.
Maybe not all, but some of them practice their tradition. And records have said that many of those captives that was brought here to this country was following Mohammedanism and also tradition. So I just want to put that out there. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm sure somebody will come behind me.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely no problem. I really appreciate it. I just know for a fact that, for all the people that are listening, this gives a lot of incentive for people to look and to see why is it that you found Muslims and people who practice African traditional religion and you found Christians, and I already named everything that they've done. Why is that? Of course, earlier I pointed out Coptic Egypt and Ethiopia and things like that. And, I did not point out how Mansa Musa had brought a lot of Islam into Africa and how that spread. There's reasons as to why, things are the way they are. It's very simple, but sometimes it's not. Other than that, I really wanted to jump to all these other calls because I got 14 minutes, and I'm trying to shut up and just listen as much as I can. So I appreciate you, bro. Let me see. Next caller up is, we got 626. You're on the air. 626. You're on the air.
Yes. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How you doing? Where you from?
Okay, this is really a short. No, I just wanted to say, man, that I caught the last part of what Bianchi was saying. And I'm not sure what the topic is tonight, but of course I know it's about Christianity. I guess I really don't know, but I caught the last part of that. But I just want to say again, Christianity, again, and especially when it comes to Ethiopia, it's not even indigenous to Ethiopia. They were known as Christians at the second century. There was an emperor by the name of Azana. He was the first to convert to Christianity. Now, the question would be, who converted him? And this was, as a matter of fact, all of his monuments are still there. And he was one of the most important emperors in Ethiopia. There were different emperors. As a matter of fact, there's a place right there. It's called Axum. And the place called Axum, what they do know that there's a lot of what they call, we call them obelisks, but they got these monuments that are in the names of these emperors who were once emperors in these certain parts of Ethiopia. So there are different parts of Ethiopia, and I think that when we say Ethiopia, we think of Ethiopia, but there's different sections of Ethiopia, and they all have somewhat of a story about Christianity. There's a YouTube video. If people like using that YouTube all the time, there's a YouTube video where there's a brother. He's a historian, but he goes back and he's looking for the origins of the Queen of Sheba and Solomon. But on his travels and his origins, he found the origins of Christianity, and they make it clear. The Ethiopians there make it clear. They said no. They said they were practicing Judaism first. He said Azana came into power, and he, in fact, converted to Christianity in the 2nd century. So I'm saying that I said to say this, that we have to put it in its place. I know people who want to be Christian. That's fine. I really don't care. But the point is that we have to put history in its proper place and understand that, in fact, Christianity, as we do know it today, was nowhere the same Christianity that was even taught to Azana. And I got to find out who in fact converted him 2nd century. Who converted? Because then that explains what people are saying, that Christianity is not indigenous to Ethiopia. Ethiopians have told me that. They have told me it's not indigenous to Ethiopia. They said no, it's not indigenous to us. It's something that we adopted, and we became the patriarchs of it. And we became more of the examples of it, but he said it was not indigenous to us. A matter of fact, the Queen of Sheba and Solomon, of course, as we know, were not Christian. I mean, they were not Christian at all.
Right.
So that's something we got to understand.
Right, and you even have the Colossian Jews.
Right. So that's something that we have to consider that as well. So I just wanted to say that and put that out there. And that's about it. But I think it's interesting that, in fact, that we throw this word Christianity around, and if we look at the order of where it comes from, even in Ethiopia, they are telling you that they will tell you, it's not indigenous to us. We were practicing Judaism first, and we converted into Christianity. Now the question would be, where did they get it from? You see, that would be the question. You see. Because they really became very, in some cases, Christianized. And then what they did, unfortunately, they begin to oppress the beta Israelites who were there. They begin to oppress them, which I thought was kind of silly that began to happen. And it happened, unfortunately, under Emperor Selassie, which I thought was a contradiction. Something that happened under him, which I thought was kind of contradiction. And I said, and so that's something that we have to. That's something that I can probably find out, but it was just one of those things that I just wanted to bring up on the show, and that's all I got to say.
Got it. And and just to add to that, I think it's interesting that there was a earlier emperor there in Ethiopia that was a Christian, and I said this earlier in the show. He ended up refuging Muslims to help protect them, and so these Muslims came into the Ethiopian territory, and they were safe. And so I'm always kind of noticing that different rulers will have these different emphasis on how to do things. And so, and also about the second century thing, the second century is basically in the year, in the hundreds, in the 100th year, which isn't too far from when the Book of Revelation was written in, 90 AD. But all these things are very, you're right. But I got 7 minutes left. I got 7 minutes left, and I really want to get to these other callers because, I'm sorry, man, because I'm definitely not trying to get a D or an F tonight. So, all right, thank you so much.
Okay.
Yep. All right, and so next caller is. Oh, wait a minute. It looks like these individuals were already on, so therefore there are no new callers, but nevertheless they're still on the one call line. I tell you what I'm going to do. Since these individuals that I already spoken to are on the call line and we only have 6 minutes left, I'm going to go ahead and open up these 4 individuals to actually have, a last little conversation for the last 6 minutes. And don't worry, if things get a little icky, I'll, mute things back in order. And also, if you're still listening and you do want to call in, all you have to do is hit the number 1. All right? So let's get this rolling here. All right, 111-314-626, and another 111. All 4 of you are on the air.
Hey,
I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have 314 speak first. If you're 314, you can go ahead and speak first.
No, you guys are doing pretty good. And by the way, Joshua, I think according to tradition, that was Frumentius and what was that other guy's name? Odysseus. That was supposed to have brought Christianity to Axum, where those stellars are.
Okay.
And if you ever have opportunity to go to Ethiopia, and I might go again, I might even want to take you with me. When you come out, I was there one time, and we had done a lecture in a building, and we came outside, and I was holding my head down, and I looked up. Man, the sky was so black, and I flinched because the stars were so big you thought you was going to bump your head on them.
Right.
Hey,
that
can
was
I say
a
something
sight
real
to
quick
behold.
in regards to something Pianki said earlier about Paul? He had to have been white because he was from Turkey or Hittite or something like that. Now,
No, his father was.
Oh, okay. Now let me say this because I did shows on this before, and I guess people don't pay attention. But again, back in the biblical days, Turkey, the Turks that are there now, they're not from there. You can get that out of your mind as far as the whiteness goes. Turks are not from around the Mediterranean at all. And Turkey is a relatively new country. In the Ottoman Empire, those white Turks, they got their language and culture from the Asian Mongol Turks. Those are the real Turks, the Asian Mongols. And the whites were just their subjects. And then they eventually took over everything. So they're not originally from there. So when you go back to the biblical days and you look at Anatolia, Turkey, you'll see black people. Just want to clear that up.
Yeah. Well, two things I want to say right quick. They found the building. There was a building in Ethiopia, an old monument in Ethiopia. It goes back 500 BC, and they were talking about this building that was there. Because they keep, of course they can keep going back, but it was 500 BC, and it really was kind of fascinating for them to see this building there, and it's right next to, it's a place called, it's the same place where the Emperor Azana was at. It's one it's in the same area, but there's a building there, and they dedicated that building to the Queen of Sheba or Saba. They dedicated that building to her as her, because basically they were trying to find out whether or not was it true that Solomon and Sheba had this affair and had a son. Now, Menelik II was the one that he was really, they fought against the Portuguese. They jacked the Portuguese up, and they killed the Jesuit priests. Matter of fact, they executed them, they put them in line, and just chopped off their necks. They chopped their necks and stuff off. So I thought that was kind of very interesting. I said, wow, okay. He wasn't playing with nobody, And so this is why Ethiopia became so fascinating at that particular time and preserving and maintaining independence, because they always was, in a position where they, and again, like won their battle. So I thought that was quite interesting. And the part that's so real you was talking about when you said that there was some Muslims who sought refuge. There, what I do know that the Muslims who sought refuge in Ethiopia was the time when Muhammad and his followers had to flee Medina, and then when they fled Medina, they went into Ethiopia. This is why it's important that he spoke very highly of Bilal and Ethiopians. And matter of fact, there's a passage in the Quran where he says he saw Bilal entering paradise before himself. So he gave a lot of homage to Bilal, this Ethiopian. Matter of fact, he called the call. Now, Arabs tried to limit him, just the fact that he called it the Azan. No, Bilal was 1/3 of Islam, meaning that he taught a lot of Islam. Matter of fact, he taught the Prophet Muhammad a lot. Matter of fact, he was responsible for some of the mythology about paradise and the hereafter and the 70 virgins who died.
We got 50 seconds left, and I'm definitely going to be taking a lot of notes. Yeah, we're going over time, but I just like to end in a sweet note, of course. But there was somebody's voice here that sounds strikingly familiar, and I think they host a show or something. Who? I wish I knew.
That's probably
you.
Me.
Yeah. Who are you?
Me?
Oh, I'm Alquan.
Alquan. I heard this dude's voice. I don't know if it's from a YouTube video. Either way, we got 10 seconds. So, all right. I hope this was right. I hope this was insightful. And good night and God bless. And we are off the air. So.
Oh, no overtime?
Whew. Overtime now.
No overtime?
So.
Overtime, right?
Yeah. Yep. Let me see. Oh, wait. We got a new one. 404. 404, you are live with us.
Hi, this is Jackie.
Hey, hello. Where you from?
Atlanta.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, listen, I've done enough talking for 3 hours, and usually this is a time where I just kind of sit back and learn and be really, really receptive. So I got 5 people on the line, 404-111-626-314, and another 111. So if you guys want to speak, if you want me to go ahead and just shout out a number, I'll go ahead and do that. I guess 111, you can go first. Oh, wait, there's two of them. Oh, man. How about
you let Jackie
404? Go? Yeah, 404. You go first.
Hi, Alphonse, Bianchi, Yashua.
You do.
All right. Greetings.
So, Bianchi, I was listening to you ask why Hitler was praying to the Christian deity and Kunta Kinte was the Muslim deity. And I would say because the Christian influence at that time was bigger on those people in America than it was on West Africa. I know Islam came to West Africa in the 7th and 8th century. So, I mean, I think Kunta Kinte's people would have been indoctrinated into Islam for a far longer time than Hitler's people. And, you know, I would even question if any of the people that were taken from West and Central Africa into slavery in Brazil, in the Caribbean, and here in America, if the majority of them were Islamic. You know, I know that Islam had been in the area for a long time, but I think a lot of those tribes at that time were probably still into animism because those people, they came from really far inside of the interior of Central and West Africa. So I would think that a lot of those people, like if you look at Togo today, Togo is still mainly African traditional religion. So I don't even think that, you know, the majority of the people that were taken, this is just me guessing off of, you know, history and looking at how it spread. You know, I would think that a lot of those people were still into African traditional religion, and that's why you get, you see today, a lot of people that in the South, you know, those people like that were, I don't want to make derogatory names, I would probably say like that were like the Gullah Geechee people that got to keep a lot of their traditions, and the people in Brazil and the people over in like Haiti, you can see the ATR heavily into Christianity. Like hoodoo in the South. Yeah, hoodoo in the South, Santeria in Brazil, and voodoo in like Haiti. Y'all understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I definitely got you.
You know, you go and look up different tribes and you go looking up their religious beliefs, you'll see that all these people had their own deity. So it just really amazes me how everybody comes to accept one deity, and this even is their people. You know, it's kind of like if a bunch of kids was in the playground and all the kids was saying, well, my daddy had beat up your daddy, and then all of a sudden all the kids just start going with one kid and saying, yeah, his daddy is my daddy too, and he'll beat up your daddy. It's kind of crazy. Like, you know, it seems like if we knew better, we would stick to our own. Because I think the whole religion is just a bunch of superstition, regardless of what religion you want to stick to. It's a bunch of superstitions. So I can't see how one set of superstitions is better or override another set of superstitions.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of groups did try to resist. Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, I get you.
Let's talk about the Igbo, for instance, in Nigeria. It says Christianity first reached Ibu land through the Delta states. The first contact with Christian missionaries in 1841. And then, I know it's noise on there too. It's my Obama phone. Indeed, the earliest recorded mass protest movement by Ibu women was the Nwabila, the dancing women's movement of 1925. The basic demand of the movement, which was dominated by elderly women, and that makes a lot of difference there, because they remember the times are old. By elderly women was the rejection of Christianity and return to traditional customs.
Yeah. I mean, and you took the words out of my mouth. I was about to say the same thing about the resistance. I mean, they've had a lot of resistance against Islam, and between Central and West Africa, there was a lot of resistance. There were some kings who opposed other kings from accepting Islam. There was one in particular named I think it was and he resisted. He in fact was trying to get to understand that his issue was that we can practice Islam but remain African in tradition, and that's what his issue was with some of the other empires at that time around him, and he got resistance from them because they were trying to be so Islamicized, and it really jacked them up. So eventually, a lot of the other people begin to concede with Islam. They begin to concede. But I do know that was some of the breaking of the African traditions was Islam, especially when they begin to concede. There was one in particular, that in fact that we know the most, and that was Master Musa. He was very Islamicized. Matter of fact, something he did. I mean, even today, in some cases, they still talk about him like, he was an idiot. But he did it because he was so Islamicized, and he was so, he was so into, all those things, and he forgot. So I think that, but they had a hard fight, and eventually, then, just like anything else, they broke it down. And then on top of that, they had a second wave of Christianity come back and began to again try to convert Africans again into Christianity. You know what I'm saying? And so I mean, so it went on, and that's how it went down, So.
Well, you can look today, and that the spread of Islam in northern Nigeria, where the Fulani, they basically rule the northern half of Nigeria, and they have they're fully Islamic. But then you can look down in southern Nigeria to the east or the west, where you can see a lot of the Yorubas have retained their ATR, even though a lot of them are very, very Christianized. And the Igbo, too, their side, a lot of them have retained their ATR, but it's a lot of them that's Christianized, too. But they didn't accept Islam, even though Christianity came to them last. So I'm just saying that to say that these people, they do retain those ATRs, but somehow those other religions just sneak right in. And you could just see these people living so close together and still, keeping what was theirs. The Igbo got theirs and the Yoruba got theirs. And even though the Fulani is right there, they have adopted something else. I don't know. I just think it's, like I said, it's crazy to me how. But it is, I don't know. I hear about, like, religious and tribal. So I think there's a lot of things that it can influence us as black people in America, around the world, and I just don't think that superstition has ever worked to benefit us. We need to leave all them superstitions alone.
Yeah. Yep.
Those people actually think that the best person to lead them out, they looking at the religion first, the tribe, and then what they can do. And this is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's crazy. I mean, we do that here. We pick people by what political party they are, rather than what they're saying and what they're doing. And it's kind of like wishful thinking. I don't see how that benefits us. We need real plans and real strategies, and not a lot of hope and spell casting. That's what it is, spell casting.
And speaking of that too, they also fought hard against the slave trades at that time too. They fought very hard against it. I mean, so it wasn't like, I know sometimes that narrative gets pushed that the Africans sold us for slavery, but they fought very, very hard against the slave trade. I mean, they was fighting very hard, but when they fight against religion and then you have some tribal politics that creeps in there. I mean, they had so much going on at that particular time, just besides the religion itself, that was another problem. So, they just have so much that was overwhelming at that particular time, especially in those areas, West and Central Africa. And what a whole continent, rather. I mean, they had so much going on at that time. But yeah.
Here's another accounting. And it says, they're talking about the Igbo women and women's literature. It says by 1929, the British colonial government finally admitted that it was facing two problems in Igbo land. Number one, the people as a whole were proven impossible to rule. And number two, the women were rebellious and rioting all over the place with a militancy unfamiliar to white men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the lesbian cult, Bianchi. It is. Look at that.
But yeah, Anybody else there?
I'm here. I'm just like really listening and learning a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now you really want to see some things, man. Ethiopia has a recorded lineage of their rulers from Haile Selassie, who was the 237 Haile Selassie I, all the way back to Menelik I, who was a Dawit, back to 982 before Christ. But look at some of the names that they had. The 8th ruler was Arbalusu Pianka II. The 11th was Shabaka. Going down to the 7th, you had Tama, Sian Pianki III. The 19th, Pianki Atun IV. So what was they doing here, Yashua? It was continuing to carry on the names of the ancient Kemite people. The 32nd, Aster Amen III. The 33rd, Amen IV. They had some that only ruled for like 6 months. Actually, 2 days. Wakina, she was a queen. She only ruled for 2 days. Well, actually, you had, wait a minute, check this one out. The 152nd, Azor, they ruled for 6 hours.
It's like, brother, your time's up, man. What? Already? Yeah, I mean, but I kind of wonder, Bianchi, what was the relationship between the people in Sudan and Ethiopia? Because it seems like they have a very their relationship has not been one of it's a kind of mysterious in a sense. You know what I'm saying? So also wonder their relationship with the people of Sudan. What's their relationship with them? Especially today, because they don't even talk to each other that much in some cases today. So I kind of often wonder about the whole thing right there, because I do know lineage-wise they're probably related. You see.
When do
So
you think it started?
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
When do you think it started?
With the lineage of what? Of who?
Them not getting along.
Well, I mean, I got different other reasons why. I mean, my personal reason is I think it was probably religion, and it was also probably the fact that bloodlines begin to get cut off. And I think that was part of it too.
Well, the people in southern Sudan, they follow Christianity a lot.
Yeah. Okay, I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that. I think it started when the Islam started pushing in, but when it started, Bianchi?
It's hard to say. You know, you talking about Bilal. You go into Saudi Arabia. Well, I'm not gonna say Saudi Arabia, but in those countries where, and it might be Yemen, where he there's edifices of him, they totally disrespected and desecrated, urinating all in the place and everything.
Yeah, and you know what, Bianchi, and technically, Queen of Sheba was not from Ethiopia. She was from Yemen. Who told me that?
That was my handset. I had to put it on mute.
Okay. Yeah. She was actually from Yemen, if I'm correct. She wasn't from Ethiopia. You know, but the black people of Yemen look like Ethiopians, kind of. You know, when you see them, it's like, hey, you see Ethiopian? No, I'm from Yemen. Oh, okay. Now you know. Okay. You know, they kind of look like each other. That I met a brother from Yemen, who I thought he was from Ethiopia at first until I heard him talk. And just by looking at him, then I heard him talk, and I asked him where was he from. He said Yemen. I said, oh man. I said, oh, okay. You don't see too many black people from Yemen. I told him. He started laughing. He said, you know, but yeah, he was from Yemen and spoke very fluent Arabic. I mean, the people he was with were Arabs, so he was probably Muslim than anything else. So, but he was from Yemen. So, but yeah.
Well, when you look at a chronology of Ethiopia, Islam really didn't come to the Horn of Africa until about the 7th century.
Yeah.
But those people, Joshua,
when it started. That's what I was asking you. When do you think it started? Because you can look and see that it didn't start coming into Ethiopia until the 7th and 8th century, when Christianity was already there. So then from there up until now, you can see the divide along the lines, Sudan, Eritrea, and Ethiopia, where they still fighting today, you know, religious wars.
Yeah, well, it was still the Romans that tried to bring it down into the deep southern regions. And actually, you know, coming up into the modern time, whites didn't start going into the hinterland until about the 1870s, 1880s, when Stanley and another group was trying to find this one individual who had went, you know, years before him, and they was coming under attack by Muslims. So they must have been way deep in the hinterland of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And we were scouting the Congo,
trying to find the sources of the Nile River. Then when they find these things, they go to rename it. There's something about these folks. They always want to rename something. I mean, things that's been around forever. I mean, you mean to tell me when people got to a place, they didn't give it some kind of name way back then? What they just do, call it blank?
At that time, Portugal and all the Dutch, they had carved out all of this stuff. And Belgium, Leopold, he wanted something for himself, and none of them had went through the interior. So yeah, he hired Stanley to go into the interior, into the Congo, deep in there. And that's where you get like the worst massacre of that time of him killing lots and lots of Africans for rubber, mostly, enslaving them. And y'all can read that. That's King Leopold's Ghost. In that book, it tells us, the story of how he went and mapped all of this stuff out. So that's why he was naming it after King Leopold and his wife and himself, because he was claiming it for Belgium, the empire. They was like the last ones to go and claim land in Africa, and the most brutal.
Well, I say
Ethiopia was fighting off Christianity as early as 1632. Emperor Sosincios, he converted to Roman Catholicism. And he tried to force it onto Ethiopia, which led to his downfall. And along came Emperor Faisal.
Wow. It's funny how, this in drill, how Africans in drill are willing to, I don't know, I guess that's just our nature, I think that we're just willing to accept things. I mean, is that just our nature? Are we, was that loving? That kind of durable people? Huh?
And human beings. Human traits.
Wow. Yeah. And then the funny thing about the continent, they they do things and then they realize it's a mistake, and then they try to recuperate and fight it, and then by that time it's almost too late in some cases. It's funny how that happens. They wake up 200 years later and go, oops, I think we made a mistake. Let's try to revolt and fight and turn this back around. But it tends to happen like that all the time.
Well, those people are greedy too, man.
Yeah.
Then you have Europeans that, I ain't going to say just Europeans, but outsiders, of course, they do have to do a lot with being European for a better recognition of the word. They come in and bribe folks and offer them money. Then folks have access to raw resources.
Right.
And then them leaders will put their money in these foreign banks, foreign countries. Look at that Sani Abacha in Nigeria. The money he had in Swiss accounts.
Right. Yeah. I mean, is the fact that are they just that greedy, or they just don't take the politics of their country seriously?
Well, they bribe. They're being bribed. Whenever you have someone that's offering something that attracts your attention, then you are easily bribed. Look at what Cheney was doing over in Nigeria.
Right.
And when they had a new government come in, they put a warrant out for his arrest. And somebody got paid $250,000, and the warrant went away.
Wow. Right.
But that type of activity is what stymies the development of countries, and especially countries like like those, like Nigeria, for instance, who has a very large population of youth, and especially now times when youth can get on the internet and see what others are type of experiences they're having in different parts of the world and compare that to theirs, they start getting restless. You have people that finish school and they're well educated, but they're not finding anything to do with that education. And to be capitalized in your dreams is almost sometimes literally impossible. And there's no reason in the world why that should continue to go on in the fashion that it goes on.
Yeah.
Unlike China kind of closed its borders.
Right.
Closed its door. Wouldn't let nobody in. And they began to make changes. Social and economic changes. You had young people, like some people have reported, young folks killing their parents, getting them out of the way.
The same thing. Japan did the same thing. They cut the boys off for a little bit. It's all right. Y'all got it at the time, but we'll be back. But they did the same thing.
And they used them same old tactics. Look at the opium wars that China had when the British was introducing that drug. Well, look at crack cocaine.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, China, I remember, and that's a good thing that I do admire about China. The fact that they were able to bounce back and do what they had to do, and they generally don't villainize their old leaders. They don't villainize them. Unfortunately, sometimes the Africans historically they tend to villainize some of their leaders. For example, that they villainize him, but he shouldn't be villainized. They shouldn't praise him because he was trying to show them what was happening, and they need to take a course of action now. If not, and this is where they're at. They do that all the time. I met a sister from Uganda, and her got to a debate, and she was saying, well, he was a camel, he ate people and all that. I said, well, if he ate his enemies, maybe that's a good thing to let him know that he wasn't playing. You see? But I said the more important thing, I was telling her that he did what he had to do because he saw what was coming around the corner. That's why he was trying to do what he had to do.
Well, in mythical story, Kronos ate the babies of the town. And
right.
What Idi Amin done, Hitler done something on the similar. Yeah. They said that Germans couldn't get loans from their own bank of their own money.
Right. Yeah. And he told them, he told all the foreigners. He said, "Why are you here?" And when he woke up, he told me to get out. He said, he told me to get. He said, "Leave." And they said, thought he was playing. He said, "Okay, if you don't leave, I'm gonna do it by force." And then he told his people. He said, "If you're not in agreement with him, if you're on the side of the foreigner, I'm gonna get you too." So he did what he had to do. I mean, you can't blame a man like you can't blame him.
Well, didn't the United States expel Mexicans in the late 1930s out of the country?
Yeah.
Even those that was born here.
Yeah. Well, they expelled them, but if you talk to Native Americans in California that were here in Southern California, they have an issue with them because they said they were even there before the Mexicans came in. You see, and they got it's called the Spanish and Indian Wars, and I don't know, and I've never did no research on those type of wars. But he said they had fights with them, and that's something that even though that they were part indigenous as well, but they became so Spanishized in their thinking. You see, so. But like I was saying, that I think he did. I think he did the right thing, and expelling those foreigners and telling them to go to hell, because he was cool. I mean, long as he was down with the Queen in Great Britain, I mean, long as he did what they asked him to do. But there, as soon as he woke up and said, no, let's stop. I can't keep doing this. This is crazy.
Well, that's not nothing really new back during the time of Kemet. Rameshu fought with the Nubians because the Nubians was making pacts with the Hyksos.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see those type of occurrences occurring all throughout history if you pay attention to them.
Why was the Nubians doing that? I mean, what was the purpose of them making a pact with the Hyksos?
Well, they were mercenaries to them, allies with them.
Right.
When the Cushites was getting ready to fight the Assyrians that was sieging Jerusalem, which was occupied by some breakaway Cushites who called themselves Yahwehs. Taharka and his son Shabiku stopped off around Alexander, what was called Yarvis at the time, and took on some not missionaries, but mercenaries, people that wanted to fight with them. Then they went on over there and defeated Sennacherib. And they say, tradition would hold it, that those Yahwehs, who was actually Agua, came down into Aswan, which then was called Swami, and resided there on Elephantine Island. Before later on they would go on down back into Gondor in Ethiopia.
Right. Yeah. Right.
The Beta Israel, which I'm saying, I think there were those Yahwehs. They don't follow the New Testament. They still use the Old Testament.
Right. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Now, why would they use the Old Testament? Well, because it's their created God, Yahweh, is in it. Right?
Yeah.
And when they created Yahweh, he was a local God of no importance whatsoever.
Right. Well,
so
they
people do.
But they got their, the Beta Israelites. They did get their, I always tell people, and I always say this, they got their culture out of Kemet. I always tell people that, so they got it out of Kemet. And some of them, if you meet them, if they tell you what they are, some of them are going to tell you what they are. I had a brother at Pasadena City College who was a Beta Israelite, and he said that to me. He said, well, actually, we got our culture out the Nile. That's how he said it to me. He said, we got it out the Nile. And I asked him, so how are you going to become Beta Israelite? And I was kind of toying with him to see what he would say, and he began to explain things to me how he did. Now, Dr. Ben, who's from the region, he's from the area, but he don't claim none of that stuff. He's totally against all of it. He said, Dr. Ben would tell him, he said, I'm not, but he will tell you that's what was practiced in his village was that. He said he would tell you where he grew up at in Ethiopia. He said it was practiced there. His mother and father practiced it, but he said he himself once he became out of it, he said he began to look at it differently, as being, like part of a problem, that religion was part of a problem, period. And that's how Dr. Ben, that's what he said, that's how he began to look at it, you see.
Well, the Agua settled back in Gondor around the 6th century. And that would have been, 600, 1200, about 1,300 years after that battle. So they must have stayed there in Elephantine for that period of time.
And he's not a he's not a big fan of Emperor Haile Selassie at all. He ain't a big fan of that guy at all. Matter of fact, he says that he came into power by default. Now, I don't know what I always thought that was personal with Dr. Ben, but he said he came into power by default. He said the rulership, the action should came into power for the royal bloodline. If we want to get, he said, if you want to talk about it, he said it was Ras Kafa that came into power, not Selassie. It should have been Kafa should be the one that came into power.
The religions in Ethiopian Orthodox, I say the religions in Ethiopia, the Muslims make up about 46%. Ethiopian Orthodox, they ain't saying Christianity, they say Orthodox, make up about 35%. Mm-hmm. And 20% is the others, which would probably be traditionalists.
Right. Right. Yeah, but it's funny how the priest was saying in Ethiopia, he was saying where I was reading and then I saw some of the video, he was saying that they in fact, he said that they were practicing Judaism at first. And something went down. Well, why would you leave Judaism to go to Christianity? And that's what baffles me. I'm like, well, what would you do that for?
Well, Judaism came before Christianity.
Right.
Chronologically.
Right. But why didn't they keep Judaism there? Well, I mean, it's still there, but why didn't they keep it as
because they wanted
religion?
To do something different. That's why.
Okay.
I mean, don't you have the Republic? Hey, don't you have the Republic of New Africa want to have 5 states? Then the Nation of Islam wanted to have a settlement of their own. So that's, from time to time you have groups of humans that get together under whatever pretense, and they come up with these different ideologies, like moving away from everybody else because they look at everybody else as having some traits that they just can't tolerate.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing that's claimed. Yeah. Well, yeah. Who else is on here besides us? Damn. What happened with everybody? Jackie?
Don't call them up. You might call up McDellicon and Allfact.
Exactly. Jackie left. She hung up.
Okay.
She hung up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, man, to be in them countries is so beautiful, boy.
Yeah,
I bet
one
area.
Man. I bet it. I mean, the last time I checked a ticket, I checked a ticket just to see what a ticket would be like. It was like Ethiopia. It was 1,400 round trip. That was round trip. Yeah, that's the last time I checked the ticket. But I want to go during the summertime, not necessarily the winter or the fall. But they have a rainy season there too. Yeah.
Well, I remember one place I went. I had to get to the top of this mountain. You drove around in circles, around the perimeter of the mountain until you finally reached the top. And nighttime, you could look out and see for miles around. Well, daytime you could. And nighttime, you could look out at that same scene, and you see all these different fires, campfires. It seemed like everyone had their own peculiar music coming from it. Where people was celebrating, or they was playing music, or time out for telling stories to the children. And you could smell all these different aromas in the air.
Right.
From foods that was being cooked and so on and so on and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so nice to be able to experience that.
Right. Right. Yeah, but yeah, I do want to go. I want to go. When I do go, I want to go about for like almost like a month and a half. I just want to go for like a month and a half. You know, start off in Ethiopia, then go down to Kemet. Then from Kemet, maybe I want to go into the Sudan a little bit and see what's there. You know. And then go out down to Senegal to the Ivory Coast, then make my way into Ghana.
You got to fly down to southern Ethiopia. It's drive down there be practically impossible because in some areas the rocks look like elephant backs. I mean, what you call them mountains. Now you can look out of the plane window and you can see little towns, little roads, but for the bigger part, those areas there that they call the Rift Valley, it's practically impassable unless you ride donkeys or something. And to get down to Jinka, where the Oromo exists, those people live like they have been living for the last 10,000 years. You'll be sitting on a log and a bunch of baboons will come up and want to talk to you.
Yeah. Right. Yes. So that I do want to go. I do want to go. Crazy has his tour. He has his tour coming up. I wouldn't mind going with him.
That's the best person to go with.
Yeah. Anthony Browder has a tour. Not that he doesn't have a tour, but he has a excavation team now. And he wants people to become part of the excavation team. And he gives people, flyers. You can call him and you can sign to be part of the team. But you got to be willing to travel and go when he says it's time to go. You see. But yeah, he said. But he always says to all you want to be Egyptologist. He said, and he brought us, you want to be Egyptologist? He said, it's the time to come join. It's time to come. Because he's excavating that Saharka, and he found it. They found it. So now he's going down. He got everything where he's going down inside the tomb. He done brought him up. They done cleaned it up. They cleaned up the diapers down in the tomb and everything. So he had to get all that stuff up out of there. So finally he got all that out of there, and he got the tomb up and all of that. So it's really good that, and I really wish I had the time and money just to go and be a part of that. But it's not my I guess it's not my time yet. So, but yeah.
Well, it depends on what you want to do, Joshua.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Go down to Lake Turkana, where the waterfall. Of course, white man named it Lake Rudolph. Who in the hell would name something Lake Rudolph? I mean, these folks are crazy as hell.
Yeah, right.
I mean, look at the names they gave Africans.
Right.
If that wasn't insulted enough.
Right.
And as if this lake was never given a name.
All right. And they give not the Atlantic Ocean, but there's another ocean they gave it. It was actually originally it was called the Ethiopian Ocean, right? What was that called?
Ethiop Sea.
Yeah, the Ethiop Sea. Yeah, I'm like, they didn't change that name. What's that? That's crazy. Change the people's shit. Yeah. Yeah, Mount Kilimanjaro was they gave that another name at one time too, right?
Yeah, that's the Mountains of the Moon.
Yeah, Mountains of the Moon. Yeah, Mount Kilimanjaro. Yeah. 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 But yeah, they just changed people's names and changed everything. We're gonna call this Lake Johnson. We're gonna call this Lake Johnson from now on. Yeah. Right now, there's a dummy right now. There's a stupid dummy right now. He went into today. He's trying to claim a part of a stretch of land that he's going to name after his daughter. Did you see that?
Who's that?
It's a white guy. He's going to name a stretch of land in the Sudan after his daughter. What do you think you are?
Crazy, man. Something wrong with these folks' minds.
Yeah.
I mean, if you put their brain on the table, it'd probably jump up and down, turn flips.
Yeah. 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 It's just a different type of people, man. But I always say, man, we're dealing with a different type of people, man. These people are not unlike part of the human family like they should be. They're not, man. They got a whole different mindset of doing things, man. Whole different mindset, man. They got a whole different mindset. I've never seen them like it. Who's that in the background with the doing?
That sounds like Gary. I don't know.
Who?
I don't know.
Gary.
Somebody's got their mic open.
Hey, Gary, can you turn that down, too?
Yeah, but you talk about some sites, like some of them churches. I guess you can call them churches. You know how the congregation get in the church? They have to climb up a rope, up a vertical mountain's wall.
Uh-huh.
And I'm talking about it for a distance, man. You got to pull yourself up on this rope.
Oh, yeah.
To get up there to the top.
It's made out of sheep, yeah. It's made out of sheep rope. Yeah, and they wrap it around you, and you climb up it. Yeah, you climb up this thing. Yeah, I thought that. What was that? That was that. It wasn't Gadara. What was that at? It was at It's the place where all the monks go. They said at one time it said it was literally for monks up there, and I forgot. I just saw it and I forgot the name just that quick. But yeah, it was pretty interesting. Yeah, they had to climb.
Yeah, so if black folks want to build a church, why don't you build one like that? You say that Christianity, your religion, come out of Africa. Why don't you build churches like they do over there? Well, you got to climb up a rope.
Exactly. That is something. Yeah. Who's that in the background that's doing it? That's so rude. Who's doing that?
I don't know. You should tell the host to cut them off.
It's so real. Can you mute that line?
Like, what number is it? Because I'm trying all of them. Like, I don't know which number it is.
Go down to...
Try Alquan's line.
Yeah.
What number? 626-314.
That's Keontae.
646. 843.
Try them too.
31. 843.
Try that.
Yeah, just mute it till it stop. You ain't got but 10 minutes anyway.
646.
No, that's not. Try that. Try that one.
313. No. All right, I got some 111. I got 111.
Okay, mute them.
Nope. 626.
That's me.
All right, 314.
That's Keontae.
That's me.
Excuse me. 626-314.
Man, you can't have that many different people on. There, stop.
All right. Oh, darn.
Get Jay's number. That sounds like a stopping.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, Josh.
Now
So that is some beautiful, beautiful areas to be in, man. You know, in West Africa, you on the beach at nighttime when the waves roll in. It seems like the, you know, when the water churns, it looks like a fluorescent light. Yeah, it lights up like a fluorescent light when the water churns, just as the wave dies down and starts to go back out to the ocean.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. You ever been down to the Ivory Coast?
Yeah. It's right next to Ghana.
Right next to Ghana, okay.
Mhm. I don't care much for them French countries.
Okay.
The French
How about
really
Senegal?
got things. Yeah, I've been to Senegal. Senegal is a French country too, but they speak Wolof.
Right. Yeah. Did you speak the? Did you visit the University of Diop?
No.
Oh, okay.
With the Goree Island.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Beautiful women on Goree Island.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Zanzibar. You know, they had a serious revolution in Zanzibar against the Arabs.
Yeah, big slave revolution.
Huh?
The big slave revolution. They had one in Basra too in Iraq.
Right. Yeah, they had a serious one in Zanzibar, but they said they whooped the Arab ass too eventually. They whooped. Yeah. You know. But yeah, but they got a lot of mixture over there in Zanzibar right now. Anyway, they got a lot of mixture over there. Yeah. A lot of mixture. Yeah.
Egypt is all right, but I could never live there. I like going out into the souk, which is the market at nighttime. Everything's lit up, look like a bazaar. Music playing, people fixing food. You got shops you can go into and buy clothes, have suits made, jewelry. The women love to wear their gold. Get you some Egyptian drawers, some cotton drawers, and get your galabia. You just like one of the natives, man. Things are so colorful.
I go there, they might try to kidnap me. I go there try to kidnap
Get
my
you a
butt.
big liter bottle, an empty liter bottle, water bottle, and go to one place, and they would squeeze you out some sugar cane juice, feel that, or mango juice. You take a big swig of that sugar cane juice, man. You have enough energy to leap taller than a bus.
Right. Yeah.
Watermelon is par none. The further south you go in Egypt, watermelon is tough, man. They have watermelon for breakfast even. Eggs taste different.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine the food taste. I mean, the food taste. It's probably more natural. It's probably more natural.
Oh yeah, it tastes delicious, man.
Yeah.
That's the only time I eat egg when I go over there.
What they got? Brown eggs? It's mostly brown eggs, right?
I don't know what color they are. Well, yeah, you're right. Because sometimes when you want an omelet, the guy will crack them right there for you, fix your omelet.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I know. Yeah. I bet they got a lot of brown eggs. I bet. What type of meat was the Nubians eating over there? The black people. What kind of meat were they eating when you saw them eating?
Nubians eat sheep. You want to call it like goat, chicken?
Goat. Okay. Yeah.
The Nubian girls, little girls, look just like black girls from Chicago. Have their hair.
Yeah, I bet they did.
Barrettes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell of an experience, man.
You know what Rashidi said when he was over there? He said they like taking pictures, but he said every time he took a picture, he said in some cases, he said they wanted to give him, they wanted some money from him. Every time he took a picture of him, he said they put their hand out, okay, give me some money. Because he said they know they're photogenic. He said they like taking pictures, but it's like they know you like taking pictures of them. He said every time he took a picture, he said they would put their hand out, okay, give me some money. Give me some money. Give me he said he give them $5 or $6 in their hand. Yeah. So
well,
yeah.
this is getting ready to go off here in about a minute.
Yep. Yeah.
Another episode of TRS.
Sure is. It's about to go off. Yeah. It's so real. You still up?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right, now I was going to say, man, good, man, and it's good to see somebody that's kind of that weren't receiving and kind of receptive and not always really ready to argue. You know what I'm saying? Like your buddy Black Jesus Minister. So, but anyway, the brother has good intentions, I guess. He has good